Here.
Here.
Here. Let's stand for a pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're at public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the village board on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes while the village board encourages input from residents. It may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. Anybody here that would like to speak at public hearing? All right, do we have anybody on? No one's got.
No one online, no.
Okay. We'll go to the consent agenda. Upon request of any trustee, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for separate consideration under general business. Does anybody have anything they'd like to move? Judy,
Number 6.
you want it moved? You just got a question?
I just have a question.
All
Can
right.
they just explain it a little bit more?
Sure.
Yeah, so during the audit process, the auditors, calculate for the water and sewer utilities, like the depreciation amount and the tax equivalent amount. And they came in where the expense was gonna be more than we budgeted, so we
Okay.
just had to adjust for those.
That's, okay, got it. Sorry, thanks.
No,
No,
that's all
that's
right.
good.
Anybody else have questions or would like separation on that item? All right, could I have a motion to accept the
make a-
consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same. So moved. All right, we have reports from village officer, village president, just the one thing. I put a poster, except for Doug, because I didn't think he was gonna be here. Oh, the poster remembering we have our second annual, community gathering on Tuesday. It'll be here, there'll be an opportunity for residents to give some input on a couple things like we discussed on the new Village Hall Police station. I'll just give a 2 to 3 minute update on what we accomplished in 24. And what we're looking at for 25. We'll go into the presentation from the architectural firm. Answer some questions that'll be in, the meeting ends at 7:30. Starts at 6 for people who just want to walk in, give their input and not interested in presentation. So I sent that out. If you can get the word out for those who already have, I appreciate that. That's all I have. Everything else is on the agenda.
Mine is congratulations to Ted. He's been here for 30 years, right? Wasn't it 30 when I read it?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I usually printed it and I didn't print it, but yeah, 30 years. So that's exciting.
Other trustee reports, anybody? Doug?
Cross Plains Optimist did a euchre tournament the Sunday after the Super Bowl, raised over $1,200 for new playground equipment at the Legion. It was well done and hope more people will join next year because they're gonna do it again.
Good, thank
Make it
you.
in the fall.
Hope you both.
Anybody else? All right, we'll go to village administrator, Carla.
Yeah, I just have one, so I just want to recognize that I think this is Jerry Gray's last meeting, and I don't think he's here or online. But he is retiring on March 19th. And he has served the village for 31 years. And so I just wanted to say that, you know, Jerry's a wealth of knowledge, having handled each development since 1993. He expanded the sewer plant, was a huge part of the Highway 14 and P reconstructions. The Mill Creek Parkway was thanks to him and a lot of different projects. He actually served as the village's building inspector for quite some time, if you wouldn't know that. So we just want to wish him well in his retirement. And then I just wanted an update too, that we're still in the process recruiting for his position. We're hoping we'll have some news soon, but we will keep you all updated.
All right, thank you, Judy.
We had somebody else, Ojo Pertzman, did we ever replace his?
For
position?
Joe, yeah, so
Okay,
Scott
good.
Schmidt moved into his
Okay.
position. Yep, and so then now we're also trying to fill Scott's old position,
Yeah.
so that'll kind of come with the new director.
Okay,
So just an update.
All right, very good, thank you. Village department heads or other reports? Elizabeth?
Super quick one. We just wrapped up the annual report that we submit to DPI. So I just wanted to highlight a few things about how 2024 went for us. We had between 13 and 18% circulation increase for physical items and digital. So that was really solid, and over a 60% increase for programming. So we were really making a concerted effort to get more people into the library, build more community, reach more people. And I think we can know that we did that. So I just wanted to highlight that, like, last year. That's it.
Very good, thank you very
awesome,
much.
thank you.
All right, anything else? All right, we will go to general business. Discussion and possible action regarding 1113 Main Street sign permit application.
Yeah, I can take this one.
You guys want to come right on up? That'd be fantastic.
There's some chairs. Yeah, I'll just kind of introduce this and then I'll turn it over to you guys.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
This is for 1113 Main Street, so Kelcher Implement. So we have a light here tonight. So, just wanted to let everyone know, so on the 14th of January, we received a sign permit application to update signs on each of the 3 buildings that Kelcher Implement owns. And after reviewing the signage regulations and some back and forth with the applicant, I had a lot of back and forth with Theo. The signs some signage could be approved and some could not, so I'll kind of explain that a little bit more. So ultimately, because there were 3, so I could approve 1 of the 3, I just denied the permit, and so I'm hoping that tonight you can have a discussion as to how you want to proceed. If you want to approve the variance, you could do a variance, you could amend the sign ordinance, you could continue with the denial, kind of whatever you all decide you want to do. But ultimately it was it deviated from our current sign ordinance. So the first one, I can kind of go through the photos, I think it's helpful a little bit. So this is the service center. And so this sign was exactly proposed to be exactly the same size as the one it would replace. So we would feel comfortable going along with that because it abides by the.
What address is that?
So the service center. The service center is at. It is 1018, yeah.
Okay.
1018. So that is the first sign on the building.
It's across the street to the west of his main location.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The reason I do this
Yeah.
is because on the agenda, it only talks about 1113, but in the packet. It brought up all the others, so.
Right, because
Technically,
how the
we're-
permit was presented was all under 113.
Right, so I just want to make sure we're all very clear on how we're gonna proceed with this.
But that would be my mistake on the sign permit. I put it all under the main location, didn't realize that the other building said separate location, so.
Not a problem, I just want to point out to the rest of the board, the agenda item is for one address,
Sure.
but it's incorporating 3 addresses, so we're gonna have to break them up.
The other address will be 1112. Main.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go ahead.
Proceed,
Yep,
cool. And so that one we felt comfortable with for the service center.
so is this the current one or is this the one you're proposing?
That's what we're proposing. The current
Oh.
one is right there on the bottom.
Oh,
That photo on the bottom. We included it on the same kind of layout picture.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard. I apologize. I just want to make sure when I was looking in the packet, I understood. It was a lot there. Okay, very good. Thank you.
So that is the service center building.
Yep.
And then they're just kind of outlining more detail there, which again, we were okay with. And then now we are looking at the storage building. So this building at 112 could not, we be approved as proposed. Just because of the additional signs that are on here as well. So this is where you're at before. And then I believe, I guess I'm trying to. Were these, is this the before photo?
Yes.
Because they look very, very
Yeah.
similar, okay.
Yeah, the only thing different I see is the INC on the side. Is that the only difference then?
Okay.
No,
Carly,
that's,
is that the latest one where we adjusted down the
I
size?
think I have to, I
That's-
think I have to go down a little bit. here.
I can't remember if that's
yeah,
that's the corrected size for you. What you asked for, I think it is, but
Hold on, now it's not responding, so. Okay. Great.
It's basically just replacing the one that's there with the,
So,
It's adding the
It-
items,
right, that's it.
and that,
but the added one on top, does that meet the requirements? The only problem that we have right now with you okaying the permit are the two bottom signs, right? And that's,
well, I think we had a question too in the size. I wanna make sure we got the size corrected. Carly asked us to change that, and I
oh,
think
okay.
we did.
You
Can-
did, I'm just pulling up, because I had the first one here and then just trying to get to the revised, because you gave me a revised.
the revised one's down on page 48 of the packet. Yeah, it's in there. Can I speak a little bit? Because I kind of,
Thing.
because I sort of looked at this a little bit with Carly. What was going on the storage building was they wanted to make the sign slightly larger, and with that building, the sign couldn't get larger because the building's only 62 feet long, and that Kelcher implement sign is 100 square feet, which means it exceeds the one footage per, like every foot of linear feet, you can have 1 square foot of signage. So they're exceeding it by 40 feet, but it was up when the sign ordinance was passed, so it's considered a legal non-conforming sign. So they can put a sign above exactly the same size and they're good.
Okay.
The issue is that with them coming in and asking a permit for it, those two signs, and there's actually a third sign over on the right, the Coyote sign that isn't pictured there. None of those three signs we were able to find a permit for, and I don't believe you guys could find permits for them. We believe. Oh, okay. Okay, okay, because
is that? Manufacturer.
okay, so that raises a question there, because on the wall, although they would be allowed two signs, but they can't exceed the sizing allowed for the wall, which was, so you could have, exactly, but well, yeah, you had to make it smaller to go back to what it was when it was a non-conforming sign, but by that call, you're exceeding any other signs that could go up there, so you can't have any other ones up there, which is why I don't know how the Coyote sign was approved in the first place, unless that was done in error. But we couldn't find a permit, and so we don't know about that Coyote one. You think it was?
Carly, the reason this one you denied was because of the number of signs. They've made the correction on the size, but now the correction that needs, or why it wasn't approved, was because of the number.
It was because these were not permitted signs. From
Okay,
from what
but
I knew, the additional, so basically the Kelcher implement sign, as they brought it down in size, could be approved if they remove the other signage. According to the code.
right, but I'm, let's just take away that they didn't have a permit, because if that was the only issue, they just write up a permit and we're good, right?
Sure.
So the question that makes it is,
No,
you're saying no to the other three signs. Because you're saying that the one sign takes up all the space And you can't have the second, even though our ordinance allows a second set.
That is absolutely correct. The size doesn't allow for the second size because it's already exceeding the allowed 60 feet.
Okay.
And so if they would come in and want to permit either of those two signs, it would be denied because you're exceeding the size.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand all this, okay. So let's,
So that's the second building.
you know,
So last question, Carly, do we have that big sign, the size you need it now? Are we
Yes.
still, are we
Yes,
still
you
in
do.
question?
You're
Okay,
in compliance with
Okay.
that, the large sign,
as
yes.
long as the Manitou and Geo signs would come down, you would say that would be okay. On that.
And,
Oh.
well.
We have a question on the Coyote
Oh,
one.
okay.
We aren't sure if that was permitted or not. I mean, because I went back on Google Street View and actually was able to figure out like between what years that sign went up. That Kyoto went up sometimes between 2018 and 2022. Just go on Google Street View, you can just go through dates and you can see signs like just sort of pops up on this building.
But
So-
here's another question, what if we made the Caltrans company sign even a little smaller, so we got within your square footage allotment and we could have two signs? Would that still work?
If you,
We could certainly make the Caltrans, but we could scale it down a little more.
And we can re-permit that other sign. I don't have a problem
Yeah.
taking those two signs off of there. The reason they're up there, so you guys understand, we get certified by our vendors.
okay,
Those two signs were in my warehouse for 3 years. I finally got pushed hard enough, I went over there, threw them up there, shot some screws in them, took my pictures, sent them in. They didn't believe me, they came out, took their own pictures, then they went back, and because in order to be a dealer, you have to have a certification. So taking them down is not the end of the world. To have those two signs out, or move them to another building or another face, we can work with that. It's just that I had to have them up for the pictures, and I just,
so you have to have them up to be a dealer is what you're saying?
we have certification from.
If they have most somewhere.
And.
Do they have to be outside?
Yeah, I mean, we could put them in the window, but that's not gonna solve the problem.
Manufacturers are trying to build their brands.
Yeah.
Things to be-
And they-
Well, I understand that, but our sign ordinance doesn't.
Could be one or good.
Well, and that's what I'm saying, we could potentially do that, it's not gonna be ideal, but I can live with that. In the past, Jerry Gray has helped us out, we had, wanted us to have a monument sign. We he made us a note, so we got rid of that, and still were able to get through the certification. I can work with them, it's not that I have to have them, I just need them when I take the pictures.
You just need them when you.
here's the process I wanna go through and figure out what is. Out of compliance, and then as a group, we can have a discussion, because there's a bigger picture here than this, so let's just continue and figure out what. 1113, the problem at 1113, does everybody have an understanding of the problem at 1112? Go
We
ahead.
just recap, because now we've talked about a lot of things. The square footage of sign, if you add up all of the signs, is too much for the face of the building. Is that?
That's, yes, and even the square footage of the culture emblem sign by itself, that sign couldn't be permitted today because it exceeds the 60 feet. But it's a non-conforming sign. It was up when the sign ordinance was passed. So as long as it stays the same size, it can be replaced in the exact same size.
You're just making things more confusing. The answer to your question is yes, the square footage of sign is too much and the number of signs are too many.
Yes.
Those are the two,
Okay.
those are the issues.
And what is the number of signs? Like how many can you have?
Two.
Two.
Okay. And there's 4.
Yes.
Okay. Carry on. I'm good. Thank you.
Cool.
So. The business name is what we're trying to. Like eliminate, like, I wanna know it's easiest to get these gentlemen, to keep their signs up and be business friendly to our community.
Right, I think just hold that thought. We'll get to that, all right? I wanna get everybody to have an understanding first, because there's a couple paths here that we have to take. So what's
Yep.
the concern with 1113?
So 1113, again, is only supposed to have 2 signs. Total on the building, so it can total up to 200 square feet. And so there are, so not in this picture, but I can show you in Google Maps that there are actually 5 signs. That are on this currently. So we are counting this as one, the case sign, the Kalsher sign. The New Holland, they're proposing it to be another case sign. the Simplicity and the Husqvarna. So that is 5 total signs on that building when it needs to be 2. And so what they are proposing is this, so they're updating that sign here, so the New Holland will become the Case. And then they're putting in a new Kalsher Implement and then another Case construction sign there. So like I said, there's 5 signs on the wall technically, which is 3 too many. And so again, we are counting these as each separate signs. I think that's another conversation too. If you would consider this 1 sign or 3 separate, because they're in cabinets here. But basically that's what I have concluded from that.
The one on the bottom is current look,
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
and that's the improvement on top.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, so help me out here, because I know Sarah, me and Sarah. So you're counting all of this as one building because it has one address?
We are.
Okay.
They're connected, like.
Well, but I'm looking at the mall where we have multiple stores and they all get their own set of.
One business.
But that's,
Well, but there are really 3. You have parts, you have service, and you have,
Under one business.
Retail.
Yeah.
they're under one company, but I think most people would think those are 2 separate buildings. But anyway, I just wanna make sure I
That's fine,
understand.
I understood it.
Okay, no, that's fine. All right, that helps. All right, Sarah.
My question was about the square footage.
Yeah.
Ordinance.
So total, so it's 2 signs total that can be on this, 200 square feet.
the way the 200 was arrived at is because the building on the right, the white one, because it's a double-story building, it's 80 feet of frontage, but because it has 2 stores, the 80 feet counts twice. So that counts for 160. Then when you get to the red part, that's easily another 80 feet, but the sign ordinance maxes out at 200 square feet is the maximum allowed.
But this is in compliance for square footage.
Yeah, there's no issue with the size of the signs on this building at all. I think they're right at 200 square feet, like with what's proposed.
And was that one permitted, that's current sign,
The current sign, yes.
and they're not making it to me, it doesn't look any bigger than that. Or,
Right.
so I'm trying to figure why it's not grandfathered in like the one across the street.
But I think part of the challenge that Carly was having was, okay, there's 3 signs there, technically, 3 separate signs. The new sign well, actually, plus the 2 would be 5. The new sign we're proposing is really 1 sign. It's a big sign. It's multiple cabinets bolt together as one
Right.
sign, and Carly and I went back and forth. And it's a
So we
fair
just didn't
conversation.
know.
How
if
do you
we're counting it
interpret
as
that
3.
as 1 sign with 3 separate logos or faces, or 3 separate signs bolted together? That's how you want to interpret it.
Right, but I'm just saying if I understand the ordinance, since that was approved, it's grandfathered in, and I don't see the difference between what they're proposing and what's there. Even with the numbers, even though now the ordinance says 2, we're grandfathered, and they're just replacing that.
The sign is actually getting shorter by 3 feet.
Yeah, so.
And in our non-conforming clause, it says that the sign has to remain exactly the same size and shape, or else it loses its non-conforming status. I'm just telling you what the
No,
ordinance
I
says.
agree with you.
So the sign is not staying the exact same size, it's getting shorter, therefore it will lose its non-conforming status if you read the ordinance with what it says.
Okay. All right, and then, so the other part is because of those other 2 signs, the numbers. All right, does everybody understand? Cameron?
I think I understand. I think we could work on the ordinance, but we don't have to do that pending this. Is there I can't remember what we did last time. Can we just refuse to enforce this? Is that
Well,
how we handled this before?
well, no, what we did before is, and this is my preference, if the board is going to agree to make changes. What we do is we approve this, but then we approve an ordinance change. That's what we did last time. We approved it, I rewrote the ordinance to have it fit in twice now, I've done that. Right, because there's a fairness, it doesn't make any sense to have Carly go out, deny permits. have them appeal, come here, and then we give a waiver. If we think, whatever we decide to change that ordinance, we can do it here, but then it's gotta be understood that we're gonna come back and change the ordinance, cause it's not fair for businesses and everything, because if the next one comes in, the board comes in and says absolutely not, now we have this unfairness, and I don't want that. I think we have to, if we decide to modify this, and I certainly think it needs to have some modifications to it, then I don't have a problem approving this, but then understanding that we're gonna change the ordinance. So we're not denying permits and then they're appealing to us and then we approve it. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense for efficiency at all, or fairness.
Okay, I think we should do that then. I mean,
Oh.
just looking at all the before and afters, I mean, these are clearly nice or.
Yeah, but we gotta take them by steps because of how this, yeah.
I'm gonna make a suggestion here,
Sure.
I think we can stay right within your sign ordinance and not have to allow you to make any changes, and Carly and I went back and forth on this. The way the sign industry would view this sign, it would view it as one sign, 3 separate logos, because it's all hooked together. And so Carly said, we can still only have 2 signs, so if you pan over to the right, Carly, on your Google map.
Sure.
What we can do is go to a little more to the left, yeah, to the 2 signs there. As I suggested, we could take that top sign off the wall, bolt it to the bottom sign, so now it becomes one sign with 2 faces. So technically, we would be in your ordinance. It'd be a little, but the way the sign industry would view that is one sign with 2 faces or 2 logos. You see a pylon sign with multiple logos, big monument signs to the mall with multiple logos, and it's still one monument sign or one pylon sign with multiple faces or logos.
Yeah.
We could do that here and we can make the bigger sign a little bigger so it gets within your ordinance, stipulation.
Oh, if you wanted to.
We don't have to change anything.
And I certainly appreciate that, and I think that's a good solution, but I guess my whole feeling is now that it's been identified, if someone wants to make a sign smaller, I don't know why we wouldn't allow it. I mean, why that would kick it out of it, so, to me, that's one area that I think we should change. I don't want them bigger, because the idea is to try to have control of size of signs, but the idea is to get them smaller and smaller is greater, right? So, because you went 8 inches smaller, I think it still should be considered replacement. That's just from my personal.
I also like the idea of kind of the wording of like counting that one sign.
Yeah.
3 signs, seems like that would be something we could correct. But I also appreciated maybe a willingness to not have so many signs in that other building, so I think some of
Yeah.
those things, I mean, there was just an article in our.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the sign ordinance.
Right.
So I don't wanna ignore these.
No, we don't, and that's my whole point. We cannot get into the business of approving things individually. We can do it, this way where they've come and they feel they can do it. If we can adjust the ordinance to make it easier for people, then we should do that. Because we don't want this to happen on a consistent basis. And it's not fair to our administrator to have to deny something, knowing that it'll probably be overruled at a board meeting, right?
Well, I think in defense of Carl, she's been great to work with. She's kind of came at this in the right spirit. It's like, hey, we can do this, but let's have a deeper conversation. And we do this all the time, working with villages and municipalities. We want to work within your ordinance because that's important. Because you've taken the time to build it. To your point, I don't want to change it every 5 minutes because some other sign company, some customer wants to come in and do something out in left field. So we want to stay in compliance with you. That makes a ton of sense for us. So we're happy to adjust where appropriate.
All right, Cody, then Michael.
There was another plan that he changed to the simplicity or Husqvarna signs or the lower signs.
Say that over there.
You didn't have any intention to change those signs
I
when
was
you
actually gonna bring
took
that
on
up.
this project?
The Simplicity is out of business, Ferris is the parent company now. That sign face we would intend to change, and I was gonna ask, do we need to permit that to do that? It's going to be red. I believe it'll be red with the word Ferris on it instead of the word Simplicity. Otherwise, it's gonna fit in the same spot.
If it's fitting in the same spot and it's the exact size, then no, you want it depending on what's ruled tonight.
Right, but I thought, maybe I misunderstood. I thought what they were suggesting is that they're gonna make that one sign. They were gonna combine
We
them.
can.
So that would be permitted because you're basically
Yeah,
going
then
one
that
side.
gets within your
But-
ordinance. We could take that. sign
Can I-
off,
Yeah,
put to the
hang on.
bottom.
Michael, you're up
make
next,
one
but I'm
sign.
finished.
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, I'm gonna say that bolting these things together does not turn it into one sign. A sign is used as a product or as a display that draws attention to a product or business. Even if you bolt those two things together, you are looking at a simplicity sign, which makes you think of lawnmowers, and you're looking at a sign that makes you think of chainsaws. Those are two different products. Therefore, I consider them to be two different signs. I understand. Okay, so right. So then, well, this is how our sign ordinance defines a sign as something that identifies a product.
But does it say they have to be separate and they have to be counted separate by product name? I don't remember reading that in there.
We say number of signs, and if we use our sign definition, then that right there is 1 and 2 signs, whether or not they're in one cabinet or not. Because let me give you an example. So if the pig wants to put up a giant sign, giant cabinet on the side of their building, and it says Piggly Wiggly, then it says Doritos, Pringles, Ruffles, whatever, those are 4 different products. But they make you think of 4 different things. So it's 4 different signs. You're endorsing 4 different things. Well,
Piggly Wiggly, and underneath it has Doritos, Coke, whatever. No, I just think those are sponsoring the sign and they're part of the sign. I don't see each little marking as a separate sign.
I see that going by as, that's an implement. I could buy Simplicity or Ferris there. I can buy Husqvarna, that I can have it service there. I can get these parts for my Case IH. I can get these parts for my harvester. It's like, yes, it's advertising, but it's a business that's been here since what, the 20s?
1915.
1950.
Under this name, it goes back to 1920.
I just,
Yeah, no, but if we're, and I hear what you're saying, but then we gotta change the ordinance,
Yeah.
right? And that's what someone's gotta work on to figure out. But, so I'm trying to figure out right now. I know you denied it, but now they feel that they're coming into compliance. So what are we voting on?
Well, I think just determining how you want to proceed. Do you want to approve? Because I denied this.
Well, I know, but now they've come back and they've said they're gonna do this and do that.
Right.
You would approve it then, right?
Well, I think we need to decide if that's one sign or.
Okay, besides that one issue, okay,
I think we need to go through the first one and talk about what the actual final plan is, because they've suggested a couple of things that they could take down those two.
right.
So I think like maybe we talk about that first and say.
That'd be the second one, but sure, go ahead.
But the only thing is,
But I mean, like, no, well, the second one, did you say that you want to have, I forget what that sign and then your main Kelcher sign?
okay, so
Have
that's
2 signs and that
so-
would be within the.
the
size,
ordinance,
Right?
Yeah.
Or one could the size.
they aren't in the size, they're in compliance with the size. Because that building's only 62 feet long and that Kelcher implement sign's 100 square feet.
But they get replacement because they're grandfathered in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are, but if you leave the Coyote sign up, you're at 120 square feet, like that one wasn't there. See, all the signs, when you add up all the size, has to be under the size allotted for the building, and that Kelcher implement sign takes, I think that building's like a 30 by 60 or 62. I kind of did it on, so, but that would, I mean, I don't know. That sign's gonna get real small, you know that, right? I mean, it's gonna get down to like a third of that size if you try to get those inside of 60 square feet.
well, because we have an ordinance that says it. All right, so we have to,
Well, change the ordinance.
Yeah, let's change the ordinance to.
okay, that's great that you wanna say, it. Okay, what are you recommending? For the language to change? We can't just say change it. I mean, last time it was pretty strict on how we wanted to do it, so it's fairly easy for me to write up and send it through. So what is the recommendation, Cameron?
I don't think it's a good use of our time in this meeting to try to enumerate all that. I think we should maybe push this back to plan. To come up with maybe possibly whole new ordinance. I don't know. I'm not sure, but like for us to sit here and go, okay, we're gonna make this change here and this change here, I mean, we're gonna be here for hours and it just.
I don't know if we're gonna be here for hours, but here's the thing, the business here we have to make a decision.
I would like to move them through this as quickly as possible and then we have an ordinance that's problematic. We need to fix it. I just think us all going back and forth with Kelchers to figure that out is not a good use of time.
Well, okay, but we've got to prove for them that it's something we can accept in the ordinance, or it makes no sense to me to waive them and then the next meeting prove an ordinance that they're in violation of the next month. That makes no sense to me. So I'm trying to, help me out with your coyote sign. Can it be put on one of the sides, towards like, Markets? I'm taking, this is the,
Yeah, it could be turns. We could move that. I mean, that, like I said, that one is electric. That'll.
oh, it's electric. No, I don't
It
know.
could be done. It's not the end of the world if we have to do it.
Because then it would be in order, right? If it was on the other side, because then that wall,
That face would get, yeah, the square footage and it would be fine. You could have, then you have the one there and you have the one on the other, you have your two, and you're not in violation of the size on this front anymore, because that one is.
I don't wanna say this the wrong way, but you could put the signs on the back too, and nobody would see them, maybe that'd help with the ordinance, but.
no,
I get it. Well, I'm being a little weird because I think it's a little weird every time a business that's successful in town wants to make some updates that we make it harder. They're actually improving the signs. They're investing $40,000 into their business. I think it's very nice for customers to see what they have. The reason the manufacturers want to see those signs out is so that they get brand recognition. I've gone by the dog grooming place. I think it looks good. And we made a change there. I think that was fine. Lake Ridge has a beautiful mural that we didn't all agree with, but I think it looks fine. I think this looks professional and very consistent with an implement, a successful implement. So I'd like to update and adjust the ordinance. And I don't want them taking signs down, because I think it looks like an implement. And they're a valued business. It's been here for a long time. So I'd like to see what we can do with our sign ordinance. I'd like it to get approved as they would like to have it up.
I just think we have to be cautious, because like in this article, they're talking about when you come across signs that you're not as happy about. These are the only things that will help you to kind of protect your village in those moments. So while I want to support these businesses and I want to make it better, just feel like we also have to prepare ourselves for what could come in the future. And then we're gonna regret having made these big changes.
no, that, you're absolutely right. And then you also have to look at some point, you have to have the standard, right? We can't always be expanding, or otherwise the whole Highway 14 will be signs, right? And that's what I'm saying. I have no problem. I'm with the majority here that, yeah, let's get this through, but I want to do it right. Where people are reasonable, because I don't want to approve this and then have an ordinance that they would not fit.
I'm in full agreement with that. I think our ordinance is too strict.
So then we can work on that and have that discussion, like you say, as long as people understand what we do tonight will be the base of the ordinance. Judy,
In my eyes, all they're doing is replacing some signs to make them look better. I mean, if they leave everything as is and just replace what they're replacing, I'm great with it. They're not really changing, they're improving, yes,
no, I think everybody agrees that the signs are better.
right. And I'm.
It's
yes.
just that now that they're doing it, it opens the
Yeah,
door.
Michael, what's the max square footage on that building we can have? Is it 100, I think you said?
No, well, on the storage building.
Storage building.
I think that building's only 60 feet long, so it's however long that side of that building is. It's like, yes,
Basically, in order to keep that sign within the grandfathered in, the county have to go around the corner.
in
to the
order,
other face.
in
Yeah.
order,
The-
in order to
the
keep,
Manitou and the Geel come off, and the coyote goes around the corner on the other.
yes,
Then
but
you could keep that at 100 square feet.
Absolutely,
Because it's grandfathered in.
absolutely, that's what, yeah, absolutely, that's what's going on.
Building sense like this. Now we're talking about this space. Now we move that coyote sign out to the end. Am I perpendicular to the building, or do I have to lay it flat on the building?
Oh, does it?
Well, perpendicular, we do allow, don't we allow
Like
the
blades.
post?
Projecting.
Yeah, projecting.
If it sticks out,
Yeah, don't stick out so many feet then.
I think so. I'd have to read, but you're definitely not hanging over a public right of way doing that. So you get, yeah, so you get rid of a less, so that this puts the liability on you for falling down. It would be considered an on-building sign. I would have to look like how far, because there are limitations, I think, on how far it can stick out from the,
That's fine.
And I know there's size limitations too.
yeah.
I'm not too worried about that. And
Yeah.
we have the smallest sign that we can get from them, I did that intentionally. When I was looking at it, they're gonna look from my certification process is that visibility wise, If I have it perpendicular to the building or sticking out, I can get visual from KP. And.
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
I'm not saying it's a deal breaker by any means, I'm just asking for clarification, so.
That I would have to I don't know that. I didn't research that or read up on, and because we don't have a lot of projecting signs in the village. There really hardly any. They're really
But in the
deal with them.
ordinance, they show a picture of it and what the dimensions can be. And
Yeah, it's,
yeah,
there is a distance that sticks. I don't know what it is.
Happy to work with you, Charlie, and if that's something we can, I mean, if we're gonna do this, figure out how to do it to make it work. I want to ask them all your,
Yeah,
my
definitely.
questions work.
That's a pretty easy fix for.
So it sounds like on this building,
To the main building.
they're willing to remove the gel and the Manitow and move the Kyoto one over to bring this building into compliance.
I don't wanna make them take off the signs, especially, they're for certification purposes and all that stuff. I think if we're gonna be looking at the sign ordinance, we should have an exception in there for, I don't know what to call them, but these kinds of certification signs, because let's say our ordinance said you can't have that yellow. I don't think Gel cares. They're not, that's gonna be their sign. They're not gonna make any, should we make those kinds of certification signs comply with our village ordinance? I would maybe think no, because the business doesn't have a lot of choice in them. Well, yeah, I don't know how to word that. That's why I said we shouldn't figure that all out in this meeting because we'll be all night, but.
I agree with you that.
Later, very easy for them.
Yeah. Because if we change the ordinance, then they would be able to, if they're willing to take it down, put it up, then if the,
Bobby,
I was gonna say, I think these properties are zoned light industrial, is that correct?
Yes.
So could you change the sign code just for that zoning?
that's another good suggestion.
I actually think only the property on the west side is light industrial. These two are not, if I remember, because I looked at the map when I was looking at it. These two properties on the east side of Market are not zoned in light industrial. The one on the western side is, if I remember. Because I looked at it, because I remember going, oh, one's light industrial and the other ones aren't.
I don't know.
I just off the top of my head, because I looked at it real
We
quick.
can certainly look at it. It's an option to look at from a zoning perspective, yeah.
I guess if we're taking notes on what else to look at here, I think the maximum size based on building face size, that ratio is incorrect. I think, because this sign, the signs seem reasonable, and the fact that they're even coming close to that tells me that maybe our ratio is too constrict on, based on the side of your building.
Okay.
How big a sign you have, especially with, most of our signs are down on Main Street on older, smaller buildings. I think we should look at that. There should be a maximum for sure. We shouldn't have someone be like, the whole face of my building
No,
is a
there's gotta
sign.
be a formula.
But I
You're
think-
just saying change the formula.
I'm saying whatever formula we have right now, I think is too restrictive.
Okay.
Another point I'd make is that sign Glenn's talking about is more expensive than hanging it off the side and have the same effect. So I think business owners taking down and putting up signs is an investment, it's money. I think if we can be a little more friendly, we know that Main Street's a valued position because of the traffic. So I think, if we can adjust the ordinance, I'd like them not to have to pull down signs. Because I think it looks pretty. Just like a implement should, I guess.
Is that your motion?
I'm not making a motion.
No, the motion,
I'm
we
stating my
gotta,
opinion.
we gotta figure this out in the motion, so, all right. So it sounds like what we wanna do, I'm hearing a number of things here. We have it where we don't require them to do any changes on what they've proposed. There's the other changes that the business has suggested that they're willing to make. And then there's obviously things that we need to look at for the ordinance change. So I guess, Glenn, you're the business owner. You got your subject matter expert here. It sounds like we potentially have it really down to just two issues, right? We have the sign on the storage. I forgot even what that was, which one.
That's that building.
Yeah, no, but it's the sign and the electric sign.
Yeah.
So we have the two options, one you're looking at, it could be moved, the other option is just, let's change the ordinance so it fits in the ordinance. The other one that I think is the one on your retail side, the definition of just putting those two signs together and redefine that. I think that hits everything, right? Or am I missing something?
Like,
Because you guys said you can shrink it a little bit or make it a little bigger
now,
because of this, and we all are thinking it's one sign there, right?
Yeah, we can certainly scale those that fits within the current ordinance. To
Okay,
me, that makes a ton of sense, so you don't have to make as many changes to your ordinance.
yeah. Am I hitting the right points here, Cody, then Sarah?
I was gonna say, yes, for the building we were talking about, but then currently simplicity sign. And
Yeah, that's what we just talked about.
leaving that alone.
Well, they're gonna put it into one sign. Well, gonna change the face of it anyways. They don't have simplicity, right? You're changing it to something
it'll be
else.
fair, right?
Yeah, fair. So they're gonna be a change there anyway.
Well, it's sounding to me like the two, I guess it's the new signs. Well, it seems like we've worked that all out, so is there something where we could approve those and then say. Pending the outcome of the revisions, then we can let them know about these additional signs, what would happen, so that they don't have to actually take them down now. So that
Oh, yeah.
if we like decide, then they could just keep them up and it's not taken down for them up and up.
I think you're asking the wrong person. That would be more to Glad and,
Well, I mean,
I'm fine with that. I don't see any reason why, and like I said, we're happy to work with you. The one that was the most trouble is gonna be the coyote sign because it is
Right.
color.
well, that's why I want to do, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Taking those two down, if you need it done, we'll get it done. Like I said,
Right.
it's not the end of the world. We may ask, permit them to another building, but at that point. permit them.
Right,
Yeah.
I was just thinking, don't take anything down until it's.
Right.
Right,
okay,
because
so,
maybe we will be able to come to
I'm fine
a
with that.
consensus.
okay, so just so Carly, you understand, what we're gonna do is approve the main signs of each building. And then we'll come back with the answer to the other one. Does everybody agree with that? Is that where we're at? And nothing changes until we actually make a change to the ordinance. So we're kind
So we're gonna, so you're saying agree to the three Kelchler implement signs that they're proposing that they're putting up, that they're
Correct.
replacing.
correct.
Okay. I still feel that inside the cabinet, you can have two separate signs if it's two different products. Sign ordinance makes that very specific with the definition of what a sign is. And I've stated in my case why.
Okay, and like I say, I'm not,
So I make a motion that we approve the three Kelcher signs as proposed. And we will work on the other ones and another day.
I will second that motion.
all right, I have a motion and a second. I just want a little bit of discussion. Okay, I think the one sign is 8 inches too small, but they were willing to do that, so.
We can scale that larger to match.
Because that'll be one less thing we have
They
to
said they
change
could,
in
yeah.
ordinance.
Yeah, no, they said they
We'll
could, yeah.
scale it to match and I'll line
Okay.
with Carly to make sure we're there.
All right, so-
Put everything across her desk.
So everybody understands that that is part of her motion, that sign has been modified.
So you're talking the sign on that sign, you're gonna make that the 3 feet longer that I think it needs to be. So it's the current, so it stays the same size. So that stays.
This is being counted as one, or we're
Yeah.
just making.
Count it as one. Well, that's what the motion is.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So the motion, that's one, they're gonna make it 6 or 8 inches longer, whatever they need to do to be in compliance.
Perfect.
And then the other ones are staying
Just as they
basically
are.
the same. Well,
Right,
they're
and-
not staying the same, but we're not asking them to make any modifications. to it.
And that one, you're gonna make it the same size, like what's
We'll
up
make it
there.
100 square feet match.
Right.
Yeah.
So that stays
I'll
again
put
in
all
the.
that through Before we do anything.
All right,
Mhm.
so does everybody understand what we're voting on? All right, let's do a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Brand,
Yes.
trustee Borcar.
Yes.
Trustee Brunner,
Yes.
trustee Homokowski,
I'm about no.
trustee,
Yes.
trustee Kettle.
Yes.
President Lincoln.
Yes. All righty, Thank you very much, and Carly will be in touch.
Yeah.
And I'll try to get
Thank you.
something to plan at the first plan meeting. Sure. All right. All right, discussion and possible action regarding scope of service for wastewater treatment facility plan. Evan,
Hi, everybody.
hello.
Should look pretty similar to the same first 3 pages, I think November. I guess I'll preface all of this with, there's been some discussions between Jerry and Jay and myself, Town and Country on what do we need to do for the sewer plant, for the village's sewer plant. The plan was completed 2004. The last facility plan, which is basically a comprehensive plan for the wastewater treatment facility, lays out how many people can we handle, how much organics can we handle. I'll keep it high level language that way. And then, as Bobby alluded to last time, gets you in line for funding opportunities if you do need to spend any money at the facility. Those plans and the DNR's eyes work in 20-year windows. So you're currently just about out, you are out of the 20-year window. And then what that means is if any improvements are necessary and or if any growth is anticipated, which is why this is coming back to the forefront, the DNR needs to have a plan approved on file to allow for that to occur. So what I talked about last time was more focused on the biosolids end of things that are going on with Dane, Iowa, where you currently haul biosolids to. That's still an element of this. But the big thing that I want to capture is ensuring that the village has adequate growth or is capable to accept growth in the way of sewage at the treatment facility. So there's 6 or 7 pages behind that of a table of contents of a similar report that we just did. This ends up being about a 500-page report that starts with kind of in 3 phases. One is working with the village and village officials to lay out what sort of growth do you want to prepare for the next 20 years, and how can that be plugged into hopefully the current capacity that's already at the plant. That gets you about to chapters 3 and chapter 4. We do a hard stop right then and there, convey that to the DNR, kind of as a mid-course review, we call it, and say, DNR, here's what we'd like to project for and plan for. Are you going to be in agreement with this before it ultimately goes in for final submittal approval? To get us through that first half of the report, there's going to be a handful of meetings walking through what sort of planning does the village want to take. And the part right now that I guess is up for probably discussion sooner rather than later is the roughly 4,400 population that this was designed for 20 years ago. Projections from DOA are now out to about 2050. I think you're in that 4,700 area.
Yeah, I'll just clarify. I think this is what Jerry's hitting. The plant was actually designed for more than 4,400. It was the board at the time that made the restriction at 4,400 to help control growth.
Yes.
Some of us thought the study had already done to brought it up to 7,000, but that has not been done. So, and that was my concern in November, but that is part of the chapter 3 that they'll be working, chapter 3 and 4. I just wanted to make that because that makes a big difference. That will send shockwaves.
The capacity and the tankage exists for more. On paper, it is rated for less, which was a tool by the board at the time to facilitate or slow growth, essentially. As we're nearing that threshold, it can potentially create triggers at the department for preventing growth from occurring. And what we want to do is take a comprehensive look, lay out what are the numbers that we can be rated for on paper, hopefully without large capital investment. And then if there are, this would lay out phases to that, to identify, okay, at what thresholds do we need to add a tank here, add a pump there. That comes about in that chapter 5 area, and then by the time we get down to chapter 8, we're doing a public hearing, laying out potential rate impacts and funding opportunities. That package gets submitted to the DNR, hopefully then approved, and then, again, hopefully barring any large capacity needs, can continue doing what you're doing with hopefully just the maintenance type work that we've been talking about in the past. So I think the part that was lost on me last time was the more population side and growth side, and focusing more on the biosolid side. You now have both of them to focus on, which has spurred what we think is the need for creating this facility plan, which then also allows for a re-rating of the facility to continue to facilitate foster growth on the sewer side, which is important.
And we need this if we wanna go for loans and stuff, so I don't wanna repeat everything that was in the November meeting, but. So this is something that we really need to do. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead, Cameron.
Just, so what are we voting on to approve this? I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like we need to unless we don't want village growth.
Yeah, or we're pretty close to tapping things.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so-
so yes, we need this, it comes out of the sewer fund, that's well financed, so we don't need to do any budget changes or anything, we just need approval to start putting this plan together and authorize the funds to pay for it. Cameron?
What's the timeline? You just said when you get to chapter 8, you're talking public hearing and.
We're probably gonna be flirting with all the year ends of this, so
Okay.
it's those 3 phases that we like to break it into, the first one being population and growth. Obviously presents the data in a couple months, lay out what the options are. That then triggers how we look at the alternatives, which is kind of the second portion of it. So that might be a meeting or two to go through where do we want to be on population and growth. Once we go to alternatives and cost estimates, that's hopefully because the facility is already designed well enough that we don't have to do any huge capital investments. Hopefully the cost side of things is not too overwhelming. Sometimes when we're talking new facility plans, that's 2, 3, 4 board meetings before people agree on an alternative. And then we do a rates evaluation on the back end. And then we do a public hearing, which either coincides with the night of a meeting already scheduled or a different night. So there's plenty of interaction time, and by design, we take this relatively slow to make sure that you guys are getting what you want out of it. But then targeting that DNR mid-course that I mentioned, hopefully summer-ish, so that by the time if there is any growth that we're well aware of, growth that's starting to occur that might make it to DNR or somebody like CARPC, the Regional Planning Commission, we're already well underway with that first third of the plan.
Cameron?
The $35,000, does that cover the entire thing or just?
Except for, there's a couple bullet points below of some additional studies that might be needed, but most of those don't come up till design.
Okay.
We're doing any groundbreaking.
All right, any other questions? Otherwise, could I have a motion, please?
Make the motion to approve the scope of the service for wastewater treatment facility.
I'll start with that. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. All righty, thank you, Evan.
Thank you. I'll sit here for the next.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't give you a handout, but.
Okay, discussion and possible action on altitude valve replacement at South Reservoir.
More or less just an update for you guys. Jerry and I were talking just to make sure the board's aware of what's already been approved and what's planned and has to occur. So actually a year ago at the February 24 meeting, the board approved the coatings project for the South Reservoir. That's the 500,000 gallon tank up on top of the hill. That's a steel tank. They're gonna do a full blast and recoat of that. It did not get done in 24, so it's gonna be getting done now in 25. Which turns out to be probably an okay thing, because as of roughly this fall, this altitude valve, as we alluded to, is in a valve vault next to that reservoir and it's leaking. So they brought in tech to take a look at it. It's well beyond repair, and then they said, well, the valve to turn off the line is also leaking, so the only way to replace this is when the tank's empty. So conveniently enough, that'll occur in 25 now with the coatings project. There's roughly 30,000 in valve cost for that altitude valve and for some isolation valves. And then there's gonna be some pipe work to occur. We're gonna start with the coatings contractor and see if they'll sub it out under their scope, or else we're gonna have to bring in a mechanical contractor to work on it at the same time, so. I don't think anything more than that. The reason you have an altitude valve, just for the nerdy side of it, is that large tank and the 48,000 gallon north reservoir do not fill at the same rates. And depending on which well pump is pumping, one fills faster than the other. The downside of that is one can be full, but the other one still needs water, and they're gonna overflow each other. So this altitude valve restricts flow once the south reservoir is full, to allow the north to keep filling, or vice versa. And that's been in there since that tank was constructed, as far as we can tell, so. So yeah, it's well beyond repair and its useful life. And conveniently decided to go down when the tank was going down anyways, so. Yep.
Just what's the time frame?
I'm gonna, barring no issues with this tonight, he's my call in the morning. He knows he needs to get done in 25. We'll have to couple that with the lead time on the valve, which is less than 2 months. So I'm optimistic that we should be on their schedule for late spring, early summer, but more to follow. And for you guys, the hope is you don't even know any different.
One of the key things with it is to do it at the same time that they're doing the coating, so we don't have to empty the reservoir on its service one time. And believe it or not, you think empty tank to the DNR regulations, so the chlorine is not as easy as it thought.
All right. Go ahead, Cameron.
So is the action you're looking for, I heard $35,000 is to, do we have
No,
to?
just list 35 as the plan. No, the valve quote that I got's roughly 30. I don't even have a pipe.
It would be just approval.
Just to approve to move
do
forward.
the work on that, and obviously the bids would come in and.
Yeah, we're gonna keep doing what we're doing. It's different than what we were told to do a year ago, which was just work on the painting. So I just want you
Got
guys
it.
to be aware that there's a little more going on. I'm comfortable with no action. Just gonna forge ahead no matter what, because it's gotta get done.
Well, we're gonna do action. The action is to approve the replacement of the altitude
Okay.
valve replacement and other valves at the south reservoir.
I will make the motion to approve the fix on the altitude valve replacement at the south reservoir at the same time that we do the repainting and coating.
All right. I have a motion in a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we have discussion and possible action regarding the school resource officer program agreement by and between the Village of Cross Plains and the Middleton Cross Plains Area School District for the 2025-2026 school year.
I motion to approve the the school resource officer program agreement by and between the Village of Cross Plains and the Littleton Cross Plains Area School District for 2025-2026.
Holy man. All right, we're going to town. So I have a motion and a second discussion. One question, I read it over. I didn't see any changes. Were there any changes made to this
No
agreement?
changes.
Okay.
Just has to be done every year.
Yeah, no, I know. I read through, I didn't catch it, but there's been a couple times little changes have been made that are significant, so I just wanted to make sure. All right, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same, so moved. All right. Discussion and possible action regarding resolution to support for the completion of the year-round multi-use Black Earth Creek Trail and greater gateway to the Driftless Trail System. You wanna,
Sure.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna see if anybody's gonna go right ahead. So this is, a resolution just to show the village's support for completion of the Black Earth Creek Trail. So this is, put on the Gateway to the Driftless, organization. I believe there are a couple of people on the call too. If any questions arise, otherwise it's a resolution to show support. I don't know if you want to say anything, Peter. I see that you're on.
Well, can I just say something?
Okay.
A previous board has approved this, and some of you have. The reason they wanted it to bring up, we have a new county executive. There's been some changes in staff at the county, and we want to just make sure they're aware that we're still supportive of it. If you've been on 78, you've seen that they're starting that trail. They have it almost to where the public hunting grounds parking lot is. They pulled all the tracks and put the gravel in. So they're moving forward with that. Obviously, there's the connection at Mazo already there. So this is just to, again, bring it up. So there's nothing new to it. Yeah, if Peter wants to say anything, that's fine, but I just want everybody here to know that was what it's about.
I motion to approve the resolution to support the completion of the year-round multi-use Black Earth
Creek Trail and greater gateway to the Drifters Trail System.
I have a motion and a second discussion. And just remind everybody, we're doing our share of it in 2026, so. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same, so moved. All right, so now we're at discussion and possible action regarding Lions Legacy Pavilion funding. We're gonna take this in two parts. One is the finance part of it. Are you gonna come and sit in there?
I can, but.
Yeah, that would be great. Come on down.
Still wanna join you? Can I at least join you?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So. The reason we got it, there's a couple more. Housekeeping things, as you know, they've raised the money, they'd like to start with it this year, do groundbreaking at least symbolically at Trout Day. So I went back, there's a couple things we have to do. The last time this was on the SIP was we approved it at 8/22/22 for the 23 budget. So since it's not in the budget for 2025, the first thing we got to do is I want to make sure there's sign that this board is still willing to do the financial part of the resolution we did in 2021. So looking at the records from there, from the 2022 SIP to the 23 was 37,600. So that's what we still owe to the project. So one motion will be to approve that money from capital. That would be number one. And then number two, part of that agreement is each one does 50%. I mean, yeah, 50,000. So there should be 100,000. We have spent the money up until this point, that 13,000. We have spent because it only made sense for us to do the pre-work. So if they did donations and paid for the pre-work and then it didn't happen, they would have to try to get that money back. So we did it. So I think the second step is we now need the Lions Club, and I don't know, we'll let Bobby decide if it's a separate account or just accounting, but I think the 37,600 and the 50,000 should go into account for the work to get this thing done. And then once we get the purchase and the bid, then it should be 50% grant, 50% line, so we have a good tracking of the funds. So that's the financial strategy of it. I don't know, Lisa, if that would work for the Lions. Or how you want.
I guess we hadn't discussed the 50-50 match. We worked with the village last year to apply for the, because our project target changed from $100,000 to $500,000.
Yep.
So we worked with the village last year and applied for the DNR grant.
Yep.
And we were awarded that of $249,900. And we have been actively fundraising since I last spoke with the board. As of the end of last month, we've raised approximately $270,000 to go towards our matching contribution. So we've surpassed what the DNR would be required of us. So we can certainly, if you're looking for us to front 50,000 right now, we can certainly do that. I'm just not sure. We're also prepared. We haven't talked about the reimbursement piece of it in any great detail. So it would be great if the project were authorized in the capital budget.
Yeah,
It sounds like it's not yet. So it'd be great if it were, both the grant funding and the private donation funding.
Okay, I think help me, Mike, didn't we approve the acceptance of the grant? So I think we're solid there. I think we're really solid there. It's more us now for that, since it started way back in, I don't know, 2018 or 2017, we've been carrying it, and then for some reason, I'm not sure why, we didn't have it on the SIP for 2024 and 2025. So we need to do that. It's not a big deal. I'm guessing the money's probably in the capital.
The money's still there, yes.
Yeah, we just need to approve it because the board can only approve for 1 year.
Okay, no,
So,
that's perfect.
yeah,
I totally understand you need to do that from a budget perspective.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that there's a financial strategy, and I understand the match is gonna be half from your money that you earned and half from the grant.
It'll be a dollar for dollar match of what the grant is. So, yeah, the DNR will contribute through that grant. The village is actually you're the recipient of the $250,000, just shy of $250,000.
Right.
So then we're funding the remainder of the project, at least $250,000 worth of it, so.
Right, because it's a dollar for dollar match on that grant, right? Okay, all right.
We will make up the portion of that grant already though with the purchase of the polygon structure. So the 249.9 is what the polygon, just the structure itself is going to cost. So we'll get that reimbursement. As soon as we make it.
But to do that, you'll have to do half of that'll come from the
We'll have to
line.
show the
and
money.
half-
Yep. we'll have to
Yeah,
show-
okay. I just want to I'm trying to figure out how this is gonna work. Are we gonna take the money and have it in an account and then we just burn it? Or are we gonna invoice the
So we
Lions
need to be
for it?
invoiced for the work.
Okay.
Actually, the gateway to the drift list for a huge chunk of it needs to be invoiced for it because they are a fiduciary sponsor.
Okay, all right.
So you would have to invoice the gateway to the amount that we agree, so if you have an invoice or a quote and you need us to pay half of that, we need an invoice from the village for that. We never
Okay.
actually discussed those procedures, but that's how I'm familiar with it being another situation.
Okay, and that's right, that's why I wanna make sure we have that discussion, so we're not in this, I thought this type thing. So that's why that's why it's brought up here. Is we'll do a couple motions.
The thought process for us was that the village would take on. 100% of what was to be paid out and then send invoices to the lines through Gateway. Once we receive those invoices, if that makes sense. Because the
Okay.
village will have to be the one to submit to the DNR for the full reimbursement for the 249,000 anyways. So it won't be coming from the Lions Club. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So then it just keeps a complete paper trail.
Right, that's what
Everything that's being done for the project, then the village gets reimbursed.
Right, but it will only get, the Lions' money is in the drift list, so let's just, let's say it's $250.
Yeah.
So when we pay the $250, the Lions Club the drift list will do an invoice for 125. 125 will come we'll ask from the DNR.
Correct.
Okay.
And then we'll have the 125 or whatever the bidding comes out to again to do the same.
Right, right.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
that's the process. Everybody okay with that process? All right, so what we really need to do is two motions. One motion is to approve, and I wanna say it's 37,600. I'm going from the SIP for the 2023 SIP. Have we spent anything?
Okay,
Cameron?
yeah, okay, I'm confused on that. Right, it's a $500,000 project. There's 249 for grant, 270 from donations. The grant money is obviously in our bank, or we, not our bank, but we have to,
Give River, yeah.
we were approved for the grant, so we have to
Yeah.
do that. So what is the 50,000 and the
The
37,600?
50,000 was what we agreed that the village, this is the taxpayers,
Uh-huh,
would put towards this project.
but it sounds like it's not needed.
No, I'm sure, it's probably part of your two, whatever you have in yours,
It's been
yes.
used for the initial
Yes,
study so
yes,
far,
right.
and the continuing construction and estimating document.
Okay.
You've already
As well as
counted
the
for it on your end, she's already counted for it on your. end.
I haven't
Or
factored
what?
that into my
Oh.
amount that we
Oh.
fundraised for.
I think Jay
That's-
thinks that, so the 37,000 you're talking about, that's the 50 that the village.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I know that, yeah,
Okay, so
absolutely.
the village only spent 13, I'll say at that time.
Yes,
I'd say though now we've spent more, because I think
They've
just
got
today we got
more
an
invoice.
invoice.
Yeah.
For phase 2, and we have not billed the Lions for that. Second half, does that make sense?
well, it does make sense, but what I'm trying to figure out is what do we need, how much of the 50,000 do we owe? Because we need to approve that. We can't just spend money that we haven't
No.
approved.
No, you approved the 50,000.
Back
You approved
3 years
I'm gonna
ago.
say 24,000 for the study. And for the engineering work to be done for Snyder's work.
Right,
Right.
okay, we approved that. That was 24,000.
Yep, I'm gonna say 25,000, yeah.
All right, so there's still, so
25.
is Cameron right that we don't need the next 25,000?
For
the-
37,600.
The other 25,000 would go towards the project, correct? Whatever's left of that would go towards whatever is needed in the project. Now I will also say. We have a conceptual idea that this project's gonna cost $500,000. Without going out to bid, we don't really know how much it's going to cost. So, you know, it lies within that to understand the cost of how much it's.
I know,
gonna be.
I think that could happen. Right now, the deal is the village is gonna pay $50,000 for this project. We passed it,
Yep.
we've agreed to it.
Correct.
What I'm trying to figure out, since it's not been in the budget the last 2 years, it needs to be approved to spend any more of it. That's my feeling,
Okay,
okay? So I need to know what that amount is that we can approve tonight.
Do
So-
you mean above and beyond the original 50,000?
No, the 50,000,
So we had signed a contract with Snyder.
yes,
It was approved, so.
yes, I
We're
understand.
still fulfilling that contract.
Yes, and I have no problem, but that doesn't hit the 50,000.
correct.
And there has been no action to where to spend that 25,000. It has not been in the SIP to be approved by the boards, the last 2 boards.
It was like a
The
carryover,
50,000
right?
You can't,
That's
you
how,
know, you can't do that.
that's how it was done.
No, well,
You're saying you're trying to earmark the
In
money
any
that's
event,
in
I
there.
don't have a number tonight of what's left, because these other invoices have come in and I don't.
if you do a history of this, every year that project is on the SIP for approval. For some reason, it dropped off in the 2024 budget and 2025 SIP. It didn't show, it's not there.
So the SIP is not, you're saying in the capital improvement document, it's not showing the
Right.
amount of money
Is
left.
it in the 2025 budget?
No, not that I could find.
I would say, I think it was in the 2024 budget, because the line item still shows, when I would look that up for. Adding in, you know, Snyder sent us an invoice, that line item is, I'm just gonna say 120. You know, so that line item shows Lions Legacy Project, and it has, I don't know how much money's left in it, but that's where I knew how much we had left for the project.
All right, I couldn't find it. So maybe
We can
it
look-
should have been, it's a capital improvement. It should have been on the SIP. And it was on the SIP up until the last. I went through each one of them and I can tell you.
Yeah, I don't know why I wouldn't have.
I can tell you in the meetings that we approved the SIP and it wasn't on it. All I'm trying to do is make sure we are confirming that we're still gonna spend the money, the 50,000. Now, the question is, in the contract, the MOU, it says that it's gonna be matched with 50 from the line.
Yeah, right, they're already matching that with their.
Fine then. I just wanna make sure we're online here, right?
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
Now-
we're getting down there.
I also, the second, it says in there that we're responsible for 2 renderings. Is that still the case? Or have we
We've
met
already done
that?
that. We've done that.
Okay, that requirement we met. All right. So then what I would ask then, since we don't know the number, is that for the next meeting, can you please get us the number so we can approve it?
Yep.
Okay. And then what I need is a motion then to explain how we're going to do the finance part of this project. Which sounds to me is what we discussed. We will pay for it and then we will send an invoice to the DNR and an invoice to the Driftless. What's the name? Driftless.
Gateway to the Drift.
Gateway to the Drift, thank you. To that organization for reimbursement. Is that gonna work? Does that work for you?
We'll have, so the big thing is that the village will pay and then seek reimbursement from the Gateway to the Driftless. We also will have situations where you'll be seeking reimbursement from the Alliance, so I think it would be best if you have the motion be that. The village will seek reimbursement from the project sponsor or the project organizer, both of us are recognized in the MOU.
Okay, I like that too. Very good. All right. Someone wanna do that motion? I'm
I'll
exhausted.
make the motion that the village will pay the. Will pay for it, and then they will seek repayment from Gateway to the Driftless and the Lions.
Okay,
I'll second it.
all right. I have a motion and second. Any discussion? Cameron?
Is this nitpicky or do we want to amend that to say that we're only paying for the grant up to the 249,000?
They can
Well,
work on that.
The MOU states we're only paying 50,000. So that would clearly need to go above the 50,000, they clearly need authorization from us.
And our MOU actually makes the Lions responsible for fundraising anything over and above that, so. If our project cost estimates come in at, I don't know, 525,000, the Lions would be responsible for fundraising for anything over and above. We're actually kind of waiting until we know where the bids are coming in before we more actively fundraise, given where we are with our totals right now. So that would fall on the responsibility of the Lions, and I believe that that's covered in the MOU that we have, that the Lions has with the village from 2021.
I'm comfortable that it clearly states we're $50,000 of taxpayers. Anything above that clearly has to come to the board. Just like the rest of it has to come to the board again, since it wasn't done. So.
Then I'm confused by the motion.
Well, the motion is that anything, the cost, we're gonna pay and then we're gonna bill out.
We're getting
Up to
reimbursed.
50,000?
No.
The 500,000 or whatever.
Okay, the grant is,
Except 50,000, we're gonna fill out everything except 50,000. Maybe this will help. So per the Lions Club MOU with the village from 2021, it identifies this 50,000, but more importantly, it identifies that the village will administer the construction project, pay for the construction costs, and seek reimbursement from the club. So that all is outlined in there, but it doesn't go into the nuts and bolts of how the reimbursement will
Right.
happen. And that's, I think, what Jay is attempting to do here, is to codify how the village is gonna be reimbursed from the Lions Club.
correct. So I'm very comfortable with how this is set up in the reimbursement part of it. There's gonna be no liability for us on that, because we have approval of the grant. And the Lion Club has shown us documents of what money they have, so I'm very comfortable we have that close to 500,000. So it's just a matter that we all have an understanding how that's gonna be reimbursed. If it goes over that, then like Lisa said, they're gonna do more fundraising, or they come to the board, whatever. But right now, everybody should feel comfortable, the village is not on the hook for any more than the original 50,000. And then we, like I say, it sounds like we've spent some of that, or, you know, more than what I thought, so. Does that answer your question?
I
Cameron?
think so.
I would be happy to sit down with you separately and go over the project and where we are
Well,
right
and
now.
also what he's getting at is at the end of this project, when we are all said and done, the village will have spent $50,000 for it.
Yep.
What you were getting caught up on, I think, is obviously the structure itself is 276,000, so when the village purchases that, it's gonna be more than the 50,000 that we said we would purchase, right? Is that what you're getting at? Yeah, but we'll get reimbursed for that.
Yep.
Fully from Alliance and or.
Well, I was-
the grant.
I don't know, just how everything was, there's a $250,000 grant, there's 270 in donations, we said we'd pay 50. But then we're paying for all of it, and then we're going to invoice, but not for, so I was just confused, there was too many numbers and too much finance.
Yeah.
stuff, and
And we have to be involved because the grant is ours.
I understand that.
And it's our problem.
Yeah, it's being built on village property. We're actually, the lines is just the funding source. So there should be a line item in your capital budget in the project that says private donations, that isn't your levy support or in any way tax funding.
Technically, you're absolutely right, I'm not even pushing that issue, but you're absolutely right.
That's why it's not in there, because we didn't realize the project was gonna happen this year.
No, but
But we had the original, because I know what Jay is talking about too.
I think Lisa's absolutely right. If we want to be on the money with this, there needs to be a motion, once we know the dollar amounts for the village, that needs to be a motion. Then we need to approve $498,000 for the pavilion, and that would all be, under there would be grant and private donation. But it's been approved, it would show that we approved it. And I know we approved these things far back, but they're only good for a year. Unless you actually brought all the funding and it's sitting in a bank, and the village doesn't do it that way. And Madison has an ordinance, you cannot do a capital project unless you have 100% of it sitting in the bank. All right, so we have that motion, any other discussion, and we'll bring the other ones back at another time. All right. Anything, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. So there's financial strategy part, Bob, you know what to bring back for the next meeting?
Yep.
All right, perfect. All right, so now we're going to the actual part of it is the approval to purchase the structure. Go ahead, Mike, why don't you give a rundown of that,
So we obviously have seen the points of action here from Alliance with regards to the money after the project. We have also received the grant, which talked about 249,000. We have been working with Snyder over the last few months to come up with the erosion control plan, electrical design plan, and then also move forward with the engineering only for the Polygon shelter. We did that back on January 24th date. Due to that taking anywhere from 5 to 6 weeks to be able to get the information for Snyder to then finish the full document for the engineering of the project. What I'm here for tonight, just as a request, is to see if you'll give the approval to purchase the Polygon shelter following the engineering for the actual structures to be done. Now, Polygon will not provide us with, you can't technically purchase prior to engineering being done anyways. But what I'm trying to do is get a little bit ahead of this project, just as knowing that these board meetings are every 4 weeks. Because once they get the engineering approval and give us what our site will allow for the different footings, then Snyder can finish that up. We can then send everything to the Wisconsin DNR for their stamps of approval, and then it can be purchased at that time by the village. Or then the bidding documents as well.
Okay, just a question, when you purchase it, are you looking for them to drop it off and we have it in storage until we get the contract? Or will they hold it until we're ready to
Great
build
question.
it?
Great question. It's 10 to 12 weeks of build out, so it can be anywhere. If we were to order it by March 17th, I was trying to do the math before, but I think it's like the first or second week in June, which we would hope that's when the project would actually start. So we would be able to house everything right down in the park for them to come to that date. And if we were to happen, if construction for this would be later, we may have to house the full polygon shelter on village property at some point. Other than that, hoping that would happen, but we would have.
Okay, they make it, ship it.
Yeah.
I can figure that, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So then how's it gonna work? You're gonna order it and then a separate bid goes out to somebody to come and put it together
Correct.
is like what it is like what you're proposing. I was kind of wondering.
We'll lay that all out. Bid that. We already purchased this shelter. We're looking for a company to come put this together. There'll also be electrical work being done. In the park, there'll be flat work done, footings will have to be done, so.
For the polygon. Yeah, that was kind of one of my questions here, like into the park, like, is this like a separate thing? Like some of these benches are like stone benches and all, you
Take
see,
the benches out. Those were
like, you
just
see what I'm
stuff.
saying? Like, I was kind of like, what's going on with this stuff is,
Snyder had
or,
those in our original stuff plan. The stone benches and things that are in their current drawings, those won't be in.
so are you putting in like the bike racks though?
Nope.
Or like the
None
bollards,
of
the
amenities
lighting?
will be added at this time. That may be something that the Lions decide to do at a later date and can bring forward, but we would try and match more with what our downtown.
Okay, that's kind of what I was wondering, because they were like, so you're taking out the bike racks, the bollards, the stone
Go
things
back
and
to
all
the
that stuff?
early
Okay.
concepts, those were included. That's-
Right. So all that stuff's been stripped down. So you're really just focusing on getting the electrical over and getting the polygon structure built, and that's really in kind of some so you're not doing any of the landscaping with all the trees and all that.
Be some landscaping, but Snyder's working on the board will approve all the final construction documents before we move forward.
Okay, I was
This
just,
project does not include the furnishings at this point. It really is just the site work, the permitting, and all of, as Mike said, all of the flat work and the electrical to build
To
and
build
have a
the-
usable shelter. It
Okay.
doesn't include even picnic tables or anything like that. Our
Okay.
goal is to fundraise over and above the project cost as it is right now, so that we can have those things.
gotcha. Okay, that's what I was kind of, so like so later on, we're gonna add like the rock band lights that like they had under the structure, those like red, white and blue like lights that they had put underneath the thing. Did you look at that?
Yeah.
There were 4 of them. That it was there under E.
That is not in our project.
Just look at the stripped down one, that's basically the,
Just the building.
the
Well,
building.
no, I went out and looked at them. They were like,
Lights that would be underneath the shelter.
But it-
will all be underneath it
but-
on the outside.
but these were like ones that could go red, white and green and were like 7 things. Like they were like, if you were having like a rock concert, they were like stage lighting. I'm like, really? like underneath the shelter. Cause that's why I was wondering what was going on.
Amenities that we would add above and beyond would have to be approved by at least the park commission.
Okay,
And
okay.
The village needs to approve it. And that is not in the current project scope, but what we are including in the current project scope, you all will review when you get to see the construction documents, but we are planning ahead and putting electrical outlets so that we could add something
Like
like
what
that
you
down
needed
the road,
to.
because we do want this to be a community hub. We want to be able to have events there and do really cool things for the community.
Right.
Strobe lights and stuff like that, I don't know if that's something that's a desire, but
Yeah, they were the quad zoom watch lights from this. I was like, wow, these are impressive.
One last question, I don't wanna be a negative Nelly here, but, what happens if you order you order this and then you put bids out for construction and it comes back much higher?
I had this exact conversation with Bobby and Carly, because I said, this is an odd project in that regard, right?
Yeah,
Normally you would wait and just kind of do it all together, and that could be an issue. I mean, that's where we're definitely gambling on that regard. We'd be gambling in that regard. However, I do feel like we could also,
Well, like, what about
some
the
alternatives.
DNR permit? Like,
There's,
is that a gamble or?
No.
Okay, I was just wondering, because it's a permit you have to get.
I just think there's probably some alternatives with some volunteer service and some public works staff being able to do parts and pieces. And there's a will, there's a way.
yeah, I just, but we should, you always, I come from a thing where you plan for the worst and hope for the best, so. I'm just laying out what are the strategic plans if the worst happens.
I thought the same thing.
Okay.
I heard Judy's really good at electrical.
I'll do it.
I'm pretty confident.
Can we put out the bid before we even order it? Just can we put out the bid
Well,
already or
We
no?
need all the information from Polygon for the bid document to get
Okay, got it.
completed, right? So we need the footings, really is what we really need. We need the footings. We get that from them. As soon as we get that, then Snyder can start working on that.
Okay. Got it.
I would say, Snyder has 90% of this ready to rock, I'd say already, so I don't know how much longer that takes them to do the bid document. Ideally, if they could get that bid document out tomorrow, I would love for them to come and get approval for such, so that we can move the project forward prior to ordering this. But maybe that would be a month out. I'm really worried about the tariffs coming in as well.
I'm with you on that
For
one.
this type of money, I mean, you're looking at an extra
Right.
$5,000, of which then that really does start to blow this project up a little bit. And that's really the reason that I wanted to ask for the purchase tonight.
Yeah. That's.
So when you say footings, like, are these gonna be like steel things that are driven into the ground? So they're just gonna be like deep concrete things that are like,
Steel poles.
oh, well, I just don't,
Steel poles.
that are in concrete that go down to like hold it there or whatever?
Like 4 foot deep, there's like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you put the concrete in and then it sits on top, so it doesn't.
It sits on top of it or sits in it?
It sits on top of the
Okay.
concrete, so it doesn't sink.
Okay, okay.
That was part of the original, like $50,000 that Jay was talking about, where we did extensive study of the area. The village funded
Like, I thought,
Slater and
like,
Associates to come and do a hydrological
Right,
study,
and-
and then that has informed the plans. So if you look at even the initial construction documents, there's a lot of detail around how that flat work needs to be done and the footings that need to be poured.
that was
So-
all the boreholes and
The
such that were, yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of looked through that real quick, yeah. Okay, just making sure it's all
All
right.
right. Do I have a motion then? Doug,
I'll make a motion to approve, ordering the Polygon based on quotations 20338 RO.
Second.
all right, I have a motion and second, any discussion? Is this off of one of the state-like
This
contracts?
is through Sourcewell, so
Okay.
the original contract cost we received was like 310,000. So they actually, going through Sourcewell, it shows you that it brought it down 33,000.
Very good.
34,000.
And remind me what Sourcewell is?
Yeah, Sourcewell is just a conglomerate, they do, I forgot what it's called, I think I've heard of this. before.
It's like a state contract.
Yeah.
So
Is
it's
it?
A joint purchasing consortium, so
Oh.
vendors around the country can join this and be part of it, and then we can get bids and it does satisfy the public bidding process.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, thank you. All right.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Go ahead
Thank
to
you.
move forward, yeah, thank you for all the work that you guys have done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Very well.
We're getting near the finish line here, just gotta dot some i's and cross some t's. Hope for the best.
Weekend of May for that
Yep.
groundbreaking ceremony.
Alrighty. So next we have discussion regarding village budget process, and that's what I put on. Just a little bit of a history on this. 5 years ago, a little bit over 5 years ago, the board at the time, in the past, for the budget process, we were staying incredibly late hours, midnight, 1 o'clock. So there was a lot of pressure to change the process, to make it easier. And it wasn't just how the length of it, but it was also on getting questions answered and stuff like that. They thought they didn't have enough time. So in 2020, for that, what we did is we kind of came up with what we've been working on now, where one, which is not only related to the budget, but we moved this meeting to 6 o'clock from 7 o'clock. We now end at 10 o'clock with the agreement that anything not done at 10 gets moved to the second Monday of the next month, right? To keep meetings short. We are now to the budget process. We came up with a schedule where we took the budget and broke it up into basically 3 parts. They're basically a meeting apart, 30 days. So the agreement was, we're giving you this. So if you remember in August, you got the capital improvement, and we discussed it at the September meeting. At the same time, you get the base budget to be at, I guess I've got to go back. It's July we do it, and then we discuss the capital in August, the base budget in September, and wage and benefits in October. Then November, you just vote on the final budget. So in between that time, it was agreed that you only had these sections to look at. So if you had questions, you would ask staff. So when we came to the time to meet, it was all, hopefully a lot of your questions were answered, and there was minimum discussion and approval. And the first 3 years, there's some people who've been on this for 3 years, went pretty darn smooth. By breaking it up, we probably didn't spend more than a half hour, 45 minutes on budget. It got approved, it got set up. By November, well, it didn't, took maybe 10-15 minutes to approve it. So that was kind of the testing. The last 2 years, I don't think it went as smooth. And it wasn't that it wasn't divided into questions and all that. It seemed we got pressured on the end. If you remember 2 years ago, we couldn't even finalize the final budget. We had to do a meeting in between, and then we approved it in December. And even last year, we made modifications again in November. So I bring this up for 2 reasons. One, it's been 5 years, so we need to look at it. Are there changes of it? Do people like this? And if we like it, then we should actually incorporate it into our budget policy, because that's not really been updated for the new process. So I guess tonight, I'm just wondering what people's feelings are on the budget process. Doug.
I'll just share, because I was on from like 09 to 13 too. I have found it to be a better process.
Okay.
It's more streamlined and structured, and I have time to get information for the meetings. I've liked it. I know we've had a couple changes, but overall, I think it makes more sense. And I like the department heads have some more input too than previous boards that I've done.
Thank you. Judy?
That's gonna agree. I mean, in the past, when we got to be very late and there was so many conversations, I do like it when we know ahead of time and it gives us more time. I don't like feeling rushed, like, because we didn't even start a lot of times, so it felt like October.
Yeah.
I mean, in the past, it's like, oh my God, we gotta do something. So I like this now that we started, like, that we are. It seems like we're always talking about budget is the only bad thing about it, but I feel like it gives us time.
People who have just only been involved in this process for continuous improvement, is there changes you would see in it?
I didn't go before, so I guess I would take that would be safe. And I've heard stories of what it was like before, so.
I'm trying to remember what. Cause I do remember last minute stuff the last 2 years, but I can't remember like what those things were.
It was, it was salaries.
It was
Salary.
salary, wages were one, and last year was also we modified a
Was there-
few of the SIP. We took off the improvements to the facilities and added the KP engineering. Right? I think those were the two things. that
We
I
added the
remember.
pool last year, I think.
What's that?
We added the pool, cause that wasn't on the SIP. But I guess that didn't, that, right, yeah, just to the SIP, but that didn't come up last minute, that was, I
No,
guess, yeah,
no.
that was before, okay.
Yeah, that, I think we're good on there. I think the other changes, and I guess since we have a staff here, the other change was we used to go, you know, line by line.
Yes, thank
through-
you for not doing that.
Yeah, and what we've done is given them a little bit of control on, we've invented what we call the base budget. And we give them a percent, so then they have the flexibility of moving money around within their own budget. As long as it meets that percentage, and if they need to go over, then they do a supplement. I think that's been better than,
I think it's great.
okay. All right,
I think it's been good. I think we're going to have issues that come up that require more time, they're challenging, so I think that's. Good.
okay, Bobby, since you're the finance director,
So one thing I wanted to mention, so we have the longevity pay policy now. My thought is if we actually streamline wages, so that's not even really, too much of a discussion. So say we, you know, follow the longevity plan, and then we set like a COLA amount. Contingent or not contingent, but like. You know, we align it with the social security increase or a CPI increase. And then like, that's our starting point, and so then we need to know. You know, if we get direction then that the levy can only go up this much, or we want expenditures to be this much, or a tax rate to be this much. So we essentially pay our employees first instead of last, because in previous years, it's like we balance the budget, but you know, on the backs of the employees. So if we pay our employees first, and then we figure out how to balance the budget after that.
so would you say? Flip it where you do wages and benefits in September and then move base budget to October?
Right.
Then it's on to the employees to do the cuts, because. they
Right,
know
yeah.
Well, I
that-
don't wanna lock in, we
Right.
cannot.
I mean,
lock-
whatever,
Yeah,
but
we
I'm
don't,
just
I don't
saying-
wanna talk
But
about
I'm just saying, if we
the
go over.
budget part of it, because we're
Right.
not in that, so we don't wanna do that. Cause
Right.
there's a potentially a new board coming in October, so we can't make a
No,
difference
no.
in it. That board will make the decision.
But I'm just saying. what
But we
reality
can, the
is.
process we can change. So is, what you're recommending is that we move the wages benefit and the base budget, switch them around? Okay. All right,
I
Cameron,
think, well, maybe this is the same thing and I'm just repeating. I think the other thing I heard from Bobby was just like put in some specific marks or something, so we don't have to battle about it every year, like she had said,
I
like
know,
using
I heard-
using the social security part. I don't know.
but we can't do that with this board,
Correct.
all right?
Well, we
Just-
can't, we're just discussing, we have no possible action.
Right, but what I'm saying is I hear that, but that would be under the
Okay.
budget discussion, not the policy or process. Right?
Yep.
Okay, all right, so. What I'm hearing is we'll flip those two, I don't have a problem with that. But otherwise, we'll maintain the process. That we've been working under the last 5 years. So then what I would ask for Bobby, can you update the policy, and if you're going to do that. There's part of this policy that I don't ever remember following. And we didn't do it tonight, because it says for budget amendments, it says this process adds or reduces existing appropriations resulting in a net change to the balance of one or more individual funds. A budget amendment requires a 2/3 majority approval of the village board and requires either a class 1 notice of the change within 15 days after any change is made or posted, a notice of the change on the municipal website within 15 days after any changes is made. Do we
Yeah.
wanna
We
do,
post it after.
but we don't do a class 1, do we?
It says that or Post a notice of the changes.
Oh,
after
okay.
15 days. So
All
we always
right,
post
so
it
we
after
do
15
follow
days.
this? Okay, all right, otherwise I
Yeah,
was
we
thinking,
don't
what
push
the
it
hell?
out. Delete.
Get rid of it, okay, as long as we're doing it, it's not a major inconvenience, I just,
Yeah.
okay.
We get the approval from the board.
Okay, perfect then. All right, so let's modify this.
Okay.
And if you want, send a draft to me and then we can
Yeah.
get it, so it's, all right. Very good. All right, now we have discussion regarding the draft employee policy manual. And I don't know about you guys, but I would like us to work off of the finished product instead of the one with all the
Sorry, I went.
all the changes, man, I don't know, that was awful busy.
I was confused.
I couldn't follow it either,
I
with the
actually-
blue and the red and the lined out
Oh, I
and
just-
the underlined. No, you did,
Oh,
it.
no,
The
you did
original
fine.
there.
You did fine, it just was very hard for me to follow.
I was gonna say, I liked the diff with all of the changes, cause then I was able to like know.
What was there before, that was what I was trying.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's a,
Offer.
Which we do it.
The only thing I wish is they're right next to each other.
I might be able to
Right, cause I
figure
felt
that
like I needed to print it
Like,
and then go.
Probably do that, I have fancy Adobe now, so we can maybe make that happen. But I can just give kind of just an overview, so we have been working on updating this employee manual since at least 2022. I don't know if there was any
Yeah.
discussion
Yes.
before that. But so we had a labor attorney from Boardman and Clark, which is where Paul is from. Initially reviewed the manual and then Brian brought it back for discussion in 2023 is what I'm what I was trying to figure out. And so then after an agenda item in November, President Langfeld requested that we, just bring it back and update the whole thing. Because it needs a lot of work. So we have been working as department heads in our department head meetings to work through this together. And so they've offered their suggestions. We've used the suggestions from the labor attorney. I've changed some things around, and so ultimately, we're presenting to you with our draft. And so, just like a couple of big changes, I just kind of wanted to outline our, we revised our cell phone policy because there wasn't anything about, staff that have two phones. Or, excuse me, have one phone that are using their personal phone for their business. So we added a section on that. We bolstered our personal conduct section that was very, very vague, so we tried to bolster that up a bit. We also changed the vacation schedule to match the police department's newly adopted union contract. So we added, you'll see in there, we added additional hours for that second year. Year 2 through 5. So there's an additional 8 hours, right? 16, I'm sorry.
Isn't that it?
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's all has to be approved by
Okay,
you.
yeah.
This is
Okay.
literally just our
Okay,
draft, I'm
yeah.
just trying to tell you what we changed, and you all
We're gonna give you a whole
take it.
month to look at.
We're gonna give you
Yeah,
all this
yeah.
time.
Okay.
We also took 24 hours away from the topic.
Yeah,
It's a give and take.
Yeah, let's just, let them finish and then we'll go through what I'm gonna say is the process.
Okay.
Go ahead.
added MLK Day as a holiday, we added, the drug and alcohol policy, added a lactation policy, so, nursing mother policy, physician grade system policy, longevity pay program policy, were all added as appendices to the manual. So, my recommendation is just that the village board review and recommend additional changes.
All right. And that's perfect. So here's how we're going to do this. For this meeting, if people are prepared, we'll go through, if you have some suggestions, only on policy. Anything that is tied to benefits, we will wait until we talk about it at the budget, during the budget process. That's the proper way of doing it. So we'll go through this. There are some that are just policies. If it's just policy, that's what we'll be working on now. And then in the fall, we'll be working on the budget part of it. All right? Because then it'll be in the right sequence. So I don't know how many people have had opportunities to do this. I have a list. I'd like to go through, and again, I'm only touching policies. I'm not touching any of the other changes that were made. So I don't want to go through this and read. If you guys have notes on certain ones, that's fine. If you don't, please read this and bring notes to the next meeting. I don't want us to read every policy and then talk about it. If you did have time or anything, you can kind of see what I've done, and I would ask that you do the same thing, because this is important.
And also if you have clarifying questions or
Yes.
anything, feel free to reach out
Yeah.
to me or any other department.
So I will start, and it's with policy, the very first one, 1.01. And it's under section 2 sub E. And it says this manual and all its provisions apply to all regular full-time, part-time employees of the Village of Cross Plains, including village officials, except to the extent prohibited by law. There's a couple clarifications. I think that should read including non-elected village officials when applicable. Elected officials fall in a whole different, we can't basically tell you how to act. There is, hang on.
No, you're good.
I would love for everybody to be held accountable to this, but the way elected officials are, the only policy in here that I think is applicable to all of us is the conflict of interest one. And that's governed by state statute if you're an elected official. You could be rude to somebody, you could lie to somebody, you could swear at somebody. I can't take action. It's the people out in the community can do a recall or just not reelect you when you're up again. So, but I do believe our committee members should be held to this standard. So those are appointed positions. There's more that the village can do. So to me, I would just say including non-elected village officials where applicable. Now, clearly they're not, we got to make sure we're applicable so they don't think they're getting paid or, get, leave and stuff like that. There are certain ones, but obviously code of conduct, harassment, all should apply to non-elected officials. Cameron?
I was gonna say, I agree with you. I wasn't thinking so much about if an elected official rude to someone, but just there's a lot of cell phone stuff in here that I was like, oh, wait, if
Right.
we agree to this, this applies to me now, but
Right.
I can't not use my personal cell phone during business hours or whatever. And I was like, okay, this is weird now. So but as long as we can clean that up, and it's not even just for the elected officials, but then also some of the village officials too, right? They're gonna be using their personal cell
Right, that's
phone.
why I said we're applicable,
Okay.
and we don't issue phones, we don't expect them to have cell phones, so that's off the table. But we do want a certain level of conduct.
Yes.
And clearly harassment, because we do have ordinance, a process to remove committee members. There is no process in our ordinance to remove an elected official unless they're found under the ethics part.
Yep.
Then there's a process. All right, anybody else have anything in that category? All right, then my next one is 1.04. Sub two BB.
Can you give me a page number?
180.
Thank you.
Well, BB is actually on page 185. And it's what it says is lying or attempting to withhold information from a supervisor. This is under conduct that's not acceptable. I would add to that, I think that's too narrow in scope. I would add from a co-worker, supervisor, village official, visitor, or resident. I don't think we should allow lying to anybody. I would change lying, it's in there, so I just left it, but usually it's under more untruthfulness. So that is what I would be recommending a change to that one, and it's somewhat similar to some of the changes that Carly made early on being more inclusive of just employees, right? I saw it in there a couple times, residents and stuff.
Yeah.
So I would be with that.
Okay.
And then under the same thing, under CC, I would add, it says making false public statements or engaging in any act that undermines the discipline of the village. After discipline, I would do a comma, mission statement and goals of the village. Just expand that a little bit more to cover a little bit more. And then I go to 1.1, 1.10.
Wait, before we move,
Oh.
I had notes on BB and CC.
Okay, okay,
If that's okay.
sure.
I don't know if this is kind of the opposite of J. Or maybe I thought these were a little too vague. I mean, we're talking about, like employee consequence and like, just like, I don't know, like lying. What happens if you misspoke?
Well, there's a difference
You had
between-
misinformation. Well, I know, but it's just like, I'm not really sure from a legal document standpoint, like where lying then falls. If I thought something and then said something else, because it's, yeah, that's what I was thinking about, just
Well,
adding the word of like
but-
willingly lying or something of that nature.
that's
Knowingly
fine.
lying,
Huh?
knowingly lying.
Willingly,
That's
something.
fine, I'm fine with that.
Okay. I had that for BB and then I also had, I don't know the right wording, but something similar in CC. Again, like if Mike comes to the board and tells us something and it was just based on, oh, I misremembered something from meeting, so I'm just picking on you because you're here. I wouldn't want that to all of a sudden be like, oh my gosh, he's in the realm of punishment because he misremembered
I
something.
think what you have to go through, look at the discipline process and the grievance process, and it should solve all of that. The whole thing on discipline is Carly looks at it, gets the facts, and then really makes the decision on, is it a training issue? Is it a verbal warning? Is it a written? It's all on the village administrator to kind of work through that.
Okay, I just thought it was like, some of the ones above were like very objective. It was, chronic.
Yeah, no, I know what you're
Chronic
saying.
abstinent, that's
Yep.
within 120 days, but then these ones are just like lying and they were a little more subjective.
So do you want to say like deliberately making false public statements?
Yeah, I
Does that
think,
help?
That's fine with me.
yeah. And then DD, I don't know how to fix that one either, but again, that seemed like a big catch-all.
That's a big.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I just ignored it, it's there, but.
Well, I mean, that doesn't seem correct for a,
But you
know.
can't narrow it down because it's trying to be a catch-all.
Yeah.
okay, if Harley is comfortable with it and the lawyer is comfortable with it, that's fine, but. Okay,
Just kept.
You could change hands from there. Or to there.
We don't wanna give them examples, because I will give them things to do.
I think we just leave it, and I don't think it has much power, or.
Yeah.
well, that is something I didn't notice, but Cody did point, and because we adjusted the police. Contract to be genderless, I thought. Sarah just left. I thought she was.
No, we didn't do it, we were looking to do it
For the next year.
for next
Okay.
year, as long as we don't lose federal funding or something.
Should-
Try to make it like there.
Yeah, that, I would say if we're gonna do it with that one, we should do it here.
Why don't you say third, yeah.
Yeah, there, that's all. You'd have to do there.
Yeah. just-
Or even a clause at the top that says any note to
It's DD,
DD.
just change
Oh.
his to their duties.
Yes,
That makes it.
that's why we need a lot of eyes on
I
this.
feel targeted as a man.
Hey, like you can still be in there. All
Okay,
right,
that was my notes on BB, CC and DD.
okay. So my next one is 1.10. Does anybody have anything prior to that?
You know what page? I'm on?
Yeah, that would be page 193. And it's under political activity, but you see it in the next one too. So I'm looking at A and B, and where I have a concern is just the language of village property. Okay, that's, to me, I think we should eliminate that altogether. Because we're saying they can't do it when they're working, and
You're off the clock, you can do it.
Yeah, can't you? If I see someone at Xander Park and I'm want someone, I'm for someone, why can't I talk to them about it? I mean, I think it's kind of restricting. I don't have a problem, I think everything, or it says or too. I don't know why we need the village property. I think the others cover it.
You just take off during working hours or while on village property.
You just take up
No, get rid of the,
while on village property, right?
yeah, get rid of, yeah, just put a period at the end of working hours and get rid of or while on village property. Because someone who's not working can be on village property and talk politics and even ask for a donation. I don't see how we cannot. I mean, and it just, that just kind of struck me, and that was the same thing with B. I think you can tell me I can't do recruiting and meeting the public down in Xander Park.
You have to go to Middleton.
You change it to polling stations.
Just has to be outside of the work.
Yeah, I just think we just get, it says candidates seeking any elective office may not engage in any electioneering while on village property.
Right, no,
Yeah, it is, that should be removed.
right.
Was that
So we're gonna-
originally in there, or was that
That
added?
was originally in there.
Okay, and the attorney didn't strike it out.
No.
To be honest with you, like I say, I'm not gonna, there's a lot of things I think the attorney does. So I would remove that both in A and B.
So what do you want them to say? Just
Yeah,
that,
No,
you're saying get rid of them.
Yeah, so you put a period instead of or and get rid of or while on village property for B and get rid of that last sentence. I'm sorry, on A and get rid of the last sentence on B.
Okay. Are you doing, just give it. On village property, don't engage.
Well,
I get it, nope, you're right.
I guess not, no, I see what you're saying. Because really, it should just say employees may not engage. I don't think you can tell me I can't
Right,
go to meet someone at the library and
That's what I was
talk.
thinking.
Yeah, you're right, I didn't catch that part. Yeah, I would get rid of village official, that B would just read employees may not engage in political activity on village property or while engaged in work elsewhere as a village official or employee.
period, yeah.
Does that make sense? Yeah, it's kind of
And the
interesting.
first one still just pull that on the.
Right,
But then the library does have its own. Where they're like.
well, you can't put posters up, but you don't, if I was sitting there and I'm talking with someone over political strategy, you're not gonna kick me out of the library, are you?
Yes.
They got election day.
No, I'm asking Elizabeth. Well, yeah. I mean,
I keep your voice down in the library.
yeah, there you go, that could be.
Yeah, that's why they're kicking you out.
Yeah, exactly, but I mean, it's a public place,
Right.
employees, when they're working, you can put some
Sorry,
restrictions.
answer you. Yeah.
Oh, I was just gonna say, as a general rule, unless you're like inciting violence, we don't. I mean,
Yeah.
it is.
Okay, everybody, okay, and then you can see that in, does anybody else have anything on 1.10? So you go to 1.11. And this is, you say, see appendix 1, which goes through a whole lot, but then it has this one. Part there, it says, or while on village property. I keep the in village vehicle. I don't care if you're working or not, if you're in a village vehicle, you shouldn't be drinking. But when they're off duty and they're having a beer at the home talent, why are we making that a violation? So again, remove the or while on village property part. I think we can restrict them from drinking if they're in a village vehicle. I don't care if they're off duty on, that's just huge liability for us. But again, they're telling them they can't have a beer at home talent.
Right.
I've refused many beers knowing that I had my park truck.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's good.
Because you have your truck, but if
But
you're
if you
there
didn't have
alone,
your truck, Yeah. Yeah, really.
Why are you standing in Judy's yard? I'm watching the home talent game.
Cause I can't drink in the park, it's public property.
Walk across the road, I didn't hear walk there.
All right, then my next one. Is, 2.02.
Got a page number on that one?
Yeah, it's, page 202. And it's salary adjustments. But help me if I'm wrong, this doesn't seem to follow the current process.
I think this was for. Like. Say you have an employee who. You wanna change.
Yeah, yeah,
It's not like your normal. Salary.
but wouldn't we still do a supplement budget
Right.
request?
We will,
Yeah.
but they need to get it to us by August first. Like if it's support for our staff members. We,
Oh,
that's so that we know, or they know that they need to get it to us so that we can get it on.
Yeah,
It's
we'll
gonna
still.
take us a while to like go review it and get comparables and.
This is for asking for.
okay.
This is for asking for it. So, but that is new.
It used to be June, they had to get it to us by June.
Yeah, I guess okay, then I would have removed the last sentence of that says that then the village board, I would just put it that it goes into the budget process then, right? Cause we don't want them coming up separate.
No.
Right,
that's
yeah.
fine.
Yeah, so I would remove
fine.
that last sentence and, okay, now I'm understanding it. Anybody else on that? So then I moved to 2.05. So you have grievance process and then you see appendix 2. Why don't we just have the process right here? Usually when you have an appendix, you have something and then there's photos or a database or something you want added that you don't want to make it. I've never seen it where you have
I
a
can embed
policy
it. I
and then
think-
just say see appendix.
This was new, so this was a recommendation by the attorney, so I think I just included it as an appendix, easily can just move it up.
I think it should be in there.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
That's kind of weird that it shifts you and you don't have anything.
Sounds good, that's easy.
Yep. So then go to 2.08. So on this one, in the numbering's wrong, you got 2 number 4s, so meals should be 3. I'm
Yeah,
going,
because
so
I
I'm gonna,
added it.
yeah, so I'm gonna go on it, but. In there's 2 of them, 3 and 4 is kind of it seems to me it's a conflict, I'm not. It says employees shall be reimbursed for actual meal costs incurred while performing village business. Okay, that's a clear statement, you get paid, but then the next sentence, the employee be reimbursed at the prevailing per diem meal rate by the state of Wisconsin Division of
You're
Personnel.
right, that is
Man,
not clear.
so we gotta pick one or the other. And that's the same thing with
I think it should
lodging.
be like up to the prevailing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I just left some of the original language in here and did not
Okay,
edit it, so yes. let's
so
do
if we
that.
can do that, because that's the same thing.
Up to, but are people are okay with that, up to the prevailing per diem rate by the state of Wisconsin? Okay.
What is the prevailing? per
It
diem?
changes.
Yeah.
Or-
$10, $12.
Yeah, so per diem is like for a full day.
Okay,
like,
so it actually covers-
It's gotta be
I
more
think it's
than that.
25.
And then there's.
Yeah, I think
different-
it should be breakfast, lunch,
Yeah,
and they
the
have different
daytime
ones
is
for
different
dinner.
than like Milwaukee County.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it wasn't like $4 and it wasn't gonna cover lunch anywhere.
Yeah.
All right, and that's the same thing with lodging, so we gotta fix that.
That easy.
Okay. And then my last one. Is 2.09. Are we doing this?
Yeah, oh, actually,
Oh.
we
Are-
actually,
We
I
talked
did,
about
we
it.
talked about it at department head. But we did talk, just kind of vaguely about it, cause I mean, it's not tied to. wage increases.
No, it's not. It's a performance.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I started the process.
Well, I
think
asked,
we're planning to continue unless.
So our
So-
department, we always do it, I wouldn't say it's directly related to this stuff, but I always try and do like a coaching. You know, like we
Yep.
talk about, we do our goals at the beginning of the year. Try and meet in July, go through stuff, and at the end of the year, we decide if we reach any of these or not. And-
yeah, and I appreciate, it, but that's not what this says, and the only reason I did is what I asked Brian, because I have to do his performance evaluation, I said. Well, did anybody else have you seen anybody else's? And the answer was no, and I said. Okay, but I'm I'm responsible for yours, so I'm gonna have to do yours, you know. Cause I was looking to see
He did it for us.
for all the department heads.
Yeah.
I wonder if he did it after I did mine. Well, after that, I don't know, but is this the process you use? It sounds you do more of continuous improvement.
Yeah.
With goal.
I,
Yeah, I just think this should be brought up to what it's actually you guys think is workable and what you do. Cause this is a pretty complex process. And
Yeah, and I mean, in our conversations, we did kind of talk more about having more of an informal coaching kind of conversation that you document.
yeah, I
But
think it
it's
needs.
not- But it's not as, specific, and it doesn't follow like every single thing that's outlined here.
Well, a lot
Not
of,
quite as formal.
yeah, cause a lot of it's on you.
Exactly.
So I guess what I'm asking is if we're gonna have this in here. Let's try to make it as close to what you guys are actually doing.
Okay.
You know, I hate to have something and then we say we do it, but then we don't.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, I didn't do all of this for Brian's. I took that one form that basically I think has 3 sections. Yeah, what they accomplished, what their goals were, did they make their goals, and then what should they be working on in the future? That's kind of, and that's the form that I think he gave me, but it does not match up with this.
Okay. Yeah, we'll revisit this.
Okay,
I don't think.
yeah, Judy.
And I might have missed it, but I can't find anywhere where it says anything about confidentiality. Was it on there? Because we should have something about that. Because don't we make them sign confidentiality? We used to make them sign them.
I thought there was something on there,
We used to
but
make
maybe
them
I read
sign
it.
them.
I thought if it was
Yeah.
given to you in
Please.
confidence, you had to keep it. Maybe not, I'd have to relook at that, but you're right.
Years ago, we used to have a form that the
Confidentiality
employees
of
had to sign.
records.
Well, no,
Oh, yeah.
There's a whole section on privacy.
confidential records, yeah, I kind of thought I saw that. But what you're talking about is the ethics form that we're supposed to all sign every
That
year.
is-
April,
Yes.
yeah, after the election.
After the election, yeah, that's what you're referring
Okay.
to.
And
Because
everybody
we,
does sign that? And is that in there, or do we need it in there?
That's
No,
ordinance, that's ordinance.
yeah, it's ordinance, but I thought there was something on ethics in there, no? Conflict of interest there was in there. And that falls under the ethics under state statute and our ordinance. So that part is there, yeah.
Okay.
And that's the only part of this that I think we can be held accountable.
So
It's like
there's the
103.
conflict- Yeah, 103 is conflict of interest,
Yeah.
and then it does, mark
See,
date.
yeah, because we're all under that.
Okay,
Oh, the village president put it on next chapter 6.
got it. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody else have anything to add? I would ask that you just for sure read the policy part of this and. If you have something, then bring it back next meeting, Doug.
I just have a quick comment or question, like how is it used? Is it just handed to a new person, they read it? The department head spend a little time here and there?
This is what it looks like, at least the old one, so we should have something hopefully for new employees to view. I think it's important to have one really up to date, because it's possible Act 10 gets reversed and they may choose to go to contract. You have a good, because all they did with contracts was turn them into these manuals, so you might as well, it would be a start. Obviously, there would be changes, but it's a good starting point, so we should try to get it up to date, because who knows how much time you get to do that.
But we do, all new hires get a copy of that, and they sign a document stating that they received.
Okay.
We do it annually at the school district, not often.
Oh,
Actually, they get a book
Yeah.
of different stuff. We don't remember all.
Well,
Do they
we
change
should
it
be
anymore?
doing, this should be, again, a review process. At least every other year. We should go do what we're doing now. These things need to be updated. Or if you guys see things that need to be updated, it should be brought, you know.
Yeah, there might be some important things you wanna reinforce throughout the year or stuff like that. I
Yeah.
know, you know, our policy book's about 60 pages. When I get a new person on a PowerPoint, and I hit the key points and make them sign everything.
Because this is part of the board. We are policymakers, so it's an important part of our job. Go ahead.
My work got caught, not caught, that's the wrong word, but we had updated the employee manual and then we didn't have employees re-sign it. And then we had an employee who was causing problems, who was then like, well, no, I know you updated the manual, but I didn't sign that last year. So
Very good point.
we should, every time we make a change to it, having all employees re-sign it. Or just it's the same acknowledgement, just the acknowledgement that you read and understood it is.
Yeah, no, good point.
To acknowledge that section, we just get sent.
Yeah, the
It,
update.
it doesn't, yeah, we had employees who signed it, you know, the original one 10 years ago, and then all of a sudden
Yeah.
10 years went by, we had a bunch of revisions and they never signed it, you know, and never agreed to the updated stuff.
And I think that's a process you gotta kind of look at, but for sure, the board should look at it every 2 years.
Yeah, I agree with that, just if we do make a change,
Yeah,
everyone needs to sign something.
alrighty. Everybody good on that? We'll put this back on, the agenda. Why don't you make it also an action one, so we can get it approved?
Okay.
And again, it'll be just the policy part, not the.
We want that in March, just to clarify.
Yeah, March, I think would be good.
If you revise it sooner, would you be able to send out the revised one?
Oh, yeah,
Earlier
absolutely.
today.
Yeah, I'll implement these changes and then, yeah, I can send it. And I can try to do that side by side thing too. Make that work.
And the MLK Junior Holiday, you guys already approved. it.
Yeah, I understand that.
I just wanted to make sure. that-
No, you're right. Anything that we've approved, go ahead and throw in there. I'm not saying to pull anything out.
Okay,
I'm just
I just
saying,
didn't know if you forgot.
yeah, I just didn't want to get into the budget stuff again, right?
Yeah.
Yes, we approved it. That's good to go. You added it. That's gonna just whip through next year. Yes.
So we have to reschedule.
What's that?
That's why we have to reschedule again.
I think you're probably right.
March meeting.
All right, we'll go to number 9 then. Discussion and possible action regarding new pump at Cross Plains School. Mike.
Alright, so, in 2023, probably like mid-year in 2023, we had noticed a small leak in the blue shaft that goes into where the pump is located. That was like really early on, or in the middle of 2023, and then all of a sudden it just stopped leaking. Until everything was good. Well, a lot of stuff that's mine. 2024 started up and it was leaking about the same spot. Right around the shaft again, put a bucket underneath it, and it would fill up about every 2 weeks or so. Last summer, it never wanted to really seize up. It would definitely get a lot less, but it wouldn't be gone. So we bought a seal kit for it, thinking like, when we talked to Carico, and they were obviously a pool company, management company. They had said a seal kit for that should work, it's just inside the glue, so we went in January to open that up and noticed that the impeller inside the pump is actually cavitated to the point where it needs to be replaced. And so went in to look to get a new impeller and found out that Marlowe no longer makes pumps. And it's the pump manufacturer that we have, their pump curve is all based off of that type of pump with Marlowe. So I went out and got 3 quotes, as you can notice here. This is not a budgeted item, was not in the budget for this year. Did get 3 quotes from 3 different companies, asking them for the same request. Which now moving to an Aurora pump, that's the pump style that's used quite often now in outdoor commercial pools. At 3801, as you can see, Spear had given us a quote, Commercial Aquatics did, and so did Carico Aquatics. Carico Aquatics provided us a number of 12,968 when I sent this out to you, and then provided me a new quote for $12,460. So they took $500 off. So The request from me is that we go out and get a new pump. From Carrico Aquatics for $12,468. By doing so, they can get started on this ASAP. By doing this, they will have to get engineer approval, plumbing approval from the state as well, because we'll have to make a few changes inside the pump room. And with the new requirements, there are new federal requirements this year that are in place that make sure that your efficiency within your pumps are meeting a certain threshold. So that's another waiting game that we have. So that's important.
All right, do I have a motion? Doug?
I'll make the motion to approve the purchase of the Aurora model 3800 pool pump.
He wants a different one now, right?
No, that's
Oh,
not the
that's
same thing.
okay, then I'll second it.
For $12,468.
Okay. I want it. Yeah, cause I thought he was going to that one and that one. Okay, good.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Where are we taking it from, rainy day account?
Yeah.
Did you have another one? I'm open.
My only thought was to just take it right out of my operating budget for this year and then have to do a bunch of amendment later.
Oh, do you have,
So it shows, just so it shows, it's in the maintenance area. I put it-
but do you have enough to cover it?
No.
I was gonna say.
Well, no,
I guess-
Well, there's enough for now. and that's
No,
what
no,
I'm
but
saying.
I don't wanna come back for little things, so. If we don't, is this something that you would put park improvement or that pool improvement fund, use those funds?
I mean, you could, that was set for the new pool. like, you
Oh.
could Use it for whatever.
What, I just,
Yeah.
just so the group knows where it's coming, so,
Operating fund balance.
alright, there we go. Alright,
And that's the rainy day fund.
well, that's what I'm used to calling it, yeah.
It's just the.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same, so move. Alright, future agenda items. Doug,
I don't know if it has to be an agenda item, but I just wanted to mention that the town of Cross Plains has a ATV, UTV ordinance that is 5 AM to 10 PM. The town of Berry has no time restriction. The village of Cross Plains, the club would like to line up with one of the townships that's next to us. I do think that the county will stay with the 5 AM and 10 PM, so that's probably what that club would recommend. I don't know what you want to do for a process, if you want me to have the club write a letter again or some.
well, if they wanna change it, then they should get, we didn't take that through plan, did we? We went right to board with that, didn't we?
We just.
I think-
adjusted
Oh, we
it.
went through the safety.
Join the public safety.
Safety, I think it should go through public safety first.
So I'll do the
The
same
last
thing.
time we adjusted it by an hour, right?
7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, let's just
You were
keep,
waiting on you're waiting on counties or the townships next to us.
yeah, let's just take it through public safety, let's just keep the process.
Can you email me and then I can, just because I'm not gonna remember the times. That you're looking for and I'll coordinate that.
Yeah, I will do that.
Thank you.
So I'll just hold off on that, then it's still.
We
Um,
meet in March.
I guess, Sarah, no, not Sarah, because I got library, it would be sustainability and Mike. I need, Cody, that would be you, we need to find, a member. So if you guys got ideas, please get them to me. I'd like to have them all set by the March meeting, so people can get started right away. I just have 2 openings on sustainability and 1 on park. So, Mike, hey, Mike. Oh. Did you find someone for your committee?
Not yet. I do have 2 names that.
Okay,
I've emailed them.
all right.
And I've had a phone conversation with one of them. They're more looking at like time commitment.
Okay, well, let me know, cause like within a week or 2, cause I'll try to do it, I'd like to get everybody up by the March meeting, if that's possible.
Carly did send me something though. There were 3 names on that.
Yeah, for some reason, I can't open up the XL one in the drive. So I did my master and I like to have phone numbers because I like to talk to them. Okay, so there were some phone numbers I was missing that I asked her if she had, because I always send her for the master phone numbers, email address, and how they want their name put on, so. Yeah,
Hey, Doug's getting off the board.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. That could still be on the committee.
well, I got an email from him that he'd like to take a little time off, but then he'd be willing to help again. Now, if you change his mind, that's fine. Yeah. No, so I went down that avenue already. Yeah, no, I have his name, but I'm waiting to see on plan what happens there. I may have an opening on plan. No, because Bill is on the, as a citizen, but if he gets elected, like, he can't be a citizen.
Every time a board member, talks to a board member.
Yeah, that has been kind of a pattern, that is true. All righty, anything else? All right, I thought it was a good meeting, we got through a lot. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
Second.
Well, let me finish, my people. All right. Yeah, all in favor, say aye. Aye, thank you.